loss of life. Now, it's easy for a privileged white man in America to talk about those things when marginalized communities have been under threat constantly and innocent lives are being lost every single day. I get that. I absolutely understand that. I can't speak of it. I can speak to it because I'm not a member of those communities. I stand on the pillar of superiority in our society because of the color of my skin and my standing. So with that being said, I can address the fact that humanity is now apparently up for grabs, while at the same time saying that indifference, apathy, selfishness in the way in which somebody participates in our democracy and or votes, I can simply say specifically that your inaction, your selfishness, and your indifference may have led to what happened in Texas. Specifically. Now, there are people in Texas who are fighting for human rights. There are members of marginalized groups that are standing there calling the shit out every day, saying, I don't participate in this fucking shit. I stand there. I go to rallies. There are members of the LGBTQI community there. There are women who are losing their lives or under threat who have to leave the state to get reproductive health care. All those things are true. And at the same time, there are millions of Texans who decided that none of those things mattered. All that really mattered is their brand. So we can call that shit out, and we will, because these things will happen again. We can call that shit out every single day, which is part of what we do here every single day. I just want to make sure, and ask yourself this if you're listening, if you're listening, or if you're, just watching, whatever that might look like. Just make sure you're still holding on to some humanity, because without that, what's the point? Like, if I just come up here every day and say, yeah, fuck it, I don't give a fuck about any of y'all, then that's not going to make me feel very good. That may not make many members of our community feel very good. So again, multiple things can be true, right? Multiple things can be true. We can recognize what can only be really described as a human tragedy, where loss of life, over 128 campers, still more people missing, young children lost their lives, innocent people lost their lives, people who may have voted for in the resistance lost their lives, while at the same time calling out indifference, apathy, selfishness, because your vote, your opinions, your ideology has consequences. This is one of those circumstances. So there you go. Thank you for allowing me to do that. And again, part of what we hear, like I just messaged my mod team. I have no expectation that anybody in our community is going to agree with everything I say. No expectation. I want to be challenged on those things, which is why we have really good emotional conversations in our mod community. My brothers and sisters in my mod community, and that's how I think of them. They are family to me, and we are honest. We are brutally honest with each other, and I think that's what we want. A conversation on difficult topics is necessary. These are the kinds of in my opinion, these are the kind of conversations where you can really check your humanity and see where you're at, while at the same time calling shit out. That's what we're doing. So again, thank you for that. Thank you, mods. I love all you guys. You know that. All right. So since we're on that topic, I think there's a few things that we should address here. So let's go to, I think the timeline is important. So I found some Fox News and AP, their timelines are very, very similar. So I kind of want to go back to the beginning and let's talk about where some of the breakdown in communication has happened. We're going to draw some of those comparisons to cuts. We're also going to share some commentary from the administration and how they are choosing to address this. Okay. All right. So this is the timeline. Starting on Thursday, July 3rd, around 12:41 a.m. And again, everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. Don't forget about the gifting goal today. Please help us out there, and please help us get to the FYP. Your participation is key. Speaking of participation, we need y'all here. Around 12:41 a.m. on Thursday, July 3rd, the first flash flood watch issued for Kerr County went out. Isolated rainfall up to 10 inches possible. That came from the AP and from Fox. That afternoon, approximately 1 p.m., the National Weather Service, NWS, issued a flood watch for Kerr, Bandera, and neighboring counties, warning of 5. Okay, we got our daily. I don't know why we got one today. We didn't get one yesterday, but that's fine. Again, everybody, really need you to tap right now. And then if you guys could gift, even if it's a rose or if it's a heart, or if you want to participate in the gifting goal, that helps with the restrictions. So thank you all very, very much. Oh, and by the way, if I failed to mention this, Great time to give blood. I encourage people to give blood a lot. I know I don't want to turn the Red Cross into a political arm. There's some issues there. I get it, but they are an easy way to donate blood. Think about the intent of what you're doing there. Try to ignore the politics for just a moment. Sit in your chair, give your blood, get your orange juice, get your cookie on the way out the door, and move on to save a life. Thank you. All right. Again, the afternoon of July 3rd, 1 p.m., National Weather Service issues a flood watch for Kerr, Bandera, and neighboring counties, warning of 5 to 7 inches of rain. 6:22 p.m. that same day, National Weather Center sounds alert, quote, considerable flooding risk in the hill country of Texas. And then at 8:12 p.m. on Thursday, July 3rd, flood watch extended as the storms persisted. That's Thursday, July 3rd. Friday morning, early, 1:14 a.m., flash flood warning activation for Kerr and Bandera counties with impact-based, quote, considerable alert triggering early warning messages. 4:03 a.m., upgraded same day, July 4th, updated to flash flood emergency in south central Kerr with orders to seek higher ground, warnings of 2 to 4 inches of rain per hour. 4 to 5 a.m., Guadalupe River water rapidly surges. Hunt's gauge jumps 10 plus feet in an hour, hitting 29 feet before failure. And then 5:34 a.m., emergency extended downriver to Kerrville after the river jumps to 21 feet. Late morning afternoon on July 4th, 7 a.m., Kerr County evacuation begins near the Guadalupe. Camp Mystic reports power, water, and Wi-Fi lost. 10 a.m., Sheriff confirms multiple fatalities. Camp Mystic states all 750 campers are accounted for, but later reports missing children. 3 to 5 p.m., same day on July 4th. Flash flood emergencies continue into afternoon. Lieutenant Governor Patrick orders camp evacuations. So the initial flash flood watch went out for Kerr County at 12:41 a.m. on July 3rd. Thank you, Swish Raiders. On July 3rd. The evacuation didn't start until 24 hours later. The evacuation order didn't start until 24 hours later. We'll talk about that in a bit. Kerr County evacuation begins near the Guadalupe. Camp Mystic reports power, water, and Wi-Fi loss. 10 a.m. on July 4th, Sheriff confirms confirms multiple fatalities. Camp Mystic states all 750 campers accounted for. 3 to 5 p.m., flash flood emergencies continue into late afternoon. Lieutenant Governor Patrick coordinates camp evacuation. So actually, it's more than 24 hours. Saturday, July 5th, 3 a.m., new flash flood emergency issued for Travis, Burnett, Williamson, and other counties in the Lake Travis region. I'm not familiar with the area. I saw it on a map, and I can see how all the rivers just kind of converge at this one spot. And it's, hill country, obviously. I think of Texas hill country. It's different than what I think of from hills, but hills for Texas. And you can see how it would just be an absolute disaster waiting to happen. And apparently it is one of the most flooded regions in our country, which then brings us to a conversation we'll have in a little bit about preparedness and what's necessary from an infrastructure perspective. 3 a.m. Saturday, July 5th, new flash flood emergency issued for Travis, Burnett, Williamson, and other counties. It's the Lake Travis region. Sunday, July 6th, search and rescue shifts towards recovery. Officials confirm 70-plus deaths. The number is now over 100 and dozens missing. Continued flood watches remain in effect, I believe, through yesterday. I think they've been suspended as of now. Emergency alerts and responsiveness. The NWS issued timely watches and warnings between evening of July 3rd and early July 4th, providing 3+ hours of lead time via flash flood emergencies and WEA alerts. Despite these, local sirens and evacuation orders were delayed or absent. County officials admitted confusion, and the mayor reported officials, quote, did not receive definitive warnings. Not according to the NWS. So this is where it gets finger pointing. No local flood siren systems had been installed despite previous FEMA grants and plans dating back to 2016. We've heard testimony from the Kerr County officials that they did not have the investments in the infrastructure, that taxpayers didn't want to pay for it, that they are one of the most highly flooded areas in the country. It would seem to me that would be an investment that a community should take in a situation like that. You have tsunami warning systems for coastal areas that are impacted by tsunamis. You have, you have motion detection for earthquake preparedness. You have fire towers in areas that are highly susceptible to wildfires, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So logic would tell you that if you have an area that is susceptible to these kinds of events, that you would want to do everything you can to prepare. And it seems like that's not the case. That's my opinion. From what I've read, though, that's what it seems like. Again, no local flood siren systems had been installed despite previous FEMA grants, meaning FEMA. We'll talk about FEMA in just a moment. FEMA provided resources, right? They provided the funding. In addition, part of the infrastructure package passed under the Biden administration included things like this. So there were resources available. Federal dollars were available. Why didn't it get done? That's something that I think the voters in Texas have every right to ask. Why was this not done? That's where you should be pointing your energy and potential anger, okay? All right, so this is the summary. July 3rd in the evening, first flood watches for Kern County and Bandera counties went out. Local preparedness was low because they didn't have a coordinated response. We'll get into that in just a moment. July 4th, early morning, flash flood warnings went out along with the emergency notifications. Insufficient local response on the ground. Morning afternoon of July 4th, evacuations begin. River surges. There were fatalities. A delay in evacuation orders on the ground. Devastating impact. And then July 5th through the 6th, expanded alerts region-wide. Many services were delayed and widespread damage. Final take on this portion. The National Weather Service issued accurate, timely alerts, but local response mechanisms failed during the rapid onset, particularly in county warning systems and evacuation protocols. Now, I think the issue is that breakdown. We do know that the warnings went out from the National Weather Service, but it's not like they can just yell. It's not like the announcement comes like, we'll get a National Weather Service. Our agency is in Burlington, and we'll get notified, right? You might get the EAS, you might get whatever that might be. The broadcasters in your area, in coordination with state and local authorities, had developed this test in the event of an actual emergency. If this had been an actual emergency, would have been constructed where to tune in your area for news and officiation. Yeah, those. I used to have to read that, so I remember it. Again, a head full of useless information. But it seems like that's the breakdown. So then the question is, why was there a breakdown? Because it seems to me, again, from the research that I've done on this topic, reading about it and listening to others, that we do know that there were staffing issues. As part of the DOGE efficiencies-driven cuts, nearly 600 National Weather Service staff members were eliminated earlier this year. Vacancy rates at several offices, including San Angelo, San Antonio, and New Braunfels, which would be the offices that would be responsible for communication to this area of Texas, their vacancy rates doubled since DOGE came in. Okay. Crucial. These vacancies included warning coordination meteorologists and other roles responsible for this: storm modeling, forecast coordination, and direct liaison with emergency managers. So when the local officials are saying that they didn't have ample time, they were not notified, that's because the people that were in these positions, again, we can make a logical conclusion here, right? If you don't have somebody watching the store, then it doesn't matter if there's an alarm that goes off because there's no one there to take the call. So it's like literally there was no one there to answer the phone. Now, we'll talk about this. There was a staffing surge. We'll talk about that in just a second. So Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer formally requested an investigation by the Commerce Inspector General, the Commerce Agency, which would oversee this, into DOGE and NWS staffing cuts that may have compromised forecast quality and emergency coordination. The central concern: did empty warning coordinator roles. Again, the scientists and the people whose primary job, this is a description again, warning coordination meteorologist. Their responsibility is storm modeling, forecast conditions, and direct liaison with local emergency managers. That's that person's job, okay? And that position in these agencies, San Angelo, San Antonio, and New Braunfels, vacant. Central concern: did empty warning coordinator roles and forecasting cuts slow or weaken local response, even if basic watches and warnings were formally issued? The watches and warnings came out from the NWS. That we know. Okay, that we know. The question is, was there anybody in a position to be able to respond to it, as is the process? And the answer is no. The White House insists the NWS executed its duties effectively, and that is true. The National Weather Service did provide these forecasts and these updates and these emergency notifications. It did not reach the people, or there was nobody in the locations at the locale level to respond. And the White House has also stated that it was just an act of nature. We know that. We know that. We know that climate change is real, and the severity and frequency of 100-year storms is now like every 10 years, 5 years. NWS internal sources also affirmed that surge staffing was deployed ahead of the storm and that all watches, warnings were issued on schedule. Experts and independent analysts cautioned that even with surge staffing, persistent vacancies in warning coordination and liaison rules make rapid dissemination of alerts and coordination with emergency officials more fragile. EO Climate Connections notes that the New Braunfels NWS office lost 22% of its staff since the beginning of the year, which again, that office is the one directly responsible. And many in those positions were either let go or they were forced into early retirement. You can draw your conclusions. You can use any analogy you want. You know, if you are oftentimes in corporate America, people like to say, we'll cut our way to a profit. And we certainly know that when you cut staff, there are always gaps. And 22% of its staff was cut. Many, in particular, the warning coordination and liaison rule. I read about this. The warning coordinator is one of the most pivotal roles because it's the one who takes the information from the NWS and then disseminates that out to local authorities so that you can coordinate evacuations, for example. And that was a missing piece. It was 24 hours before an evacuation order was issued. 24 hours, especially now when you hear the Kerr County official. Let me see if I can find that sound for you, because it's telling when you hear the Kerr County official talk about the severity, or the impact of that particular area. And I say that because if they had any inkling that it was going to be bad, right? Any inkling whatsoever that it was going to be bad, then why did they not lean in on the cautious end and evacuate people, especially since that area is prone to flooding, as they've discussed. Let me see if I can find the sound for that. Everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. I appreciate y'all very, very much. I have it someplace. Again, like we said, two things can be true. Okay, this is the sound I want to play for you. This is Judge Rob Kelly, who's the town manager. He's the boss. He's the person who is the most senior official in that area. And this is what he had to say.
Why weren't these camps evacuated yesterday? Texas Department of Emergency Management put out an all call and said there's going to be a problem. We knew there was going to be a problem. Why weren't these camps evacuated?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Well, you're the judge. I mean, you're the top official here in this county. Why can't you answer that? There are kids missing. These camps were in harm's way. We knew this flood was coming.
We didn't know this flood was coming. Rest assured, no one knew this kind of flood was coming. We have floods all the time. This is the most dangerous river valley in the United States.
I agree.
And we deal with floods on a regular basis. When it rains, we get water. We had no reason to believe that this was going to be anything like what's happened here. None whatsoever.
So two things come up when I hear that, right? I hear if it's the most dangerous area, if it's one of the most dangerous areas in the United States, is it really a good idea to have a camp there? And if it's one of the most dangerous areas in the United States and you have flooding all the time, and there were monies allocated to you back in 2016 for sirens, for more early warning systems, why were they not installed? Right? Why were they not installed? Those are some of the questions that are going to have to be answered. Those are some of the questions that are going to have to be answered. Now, this is where it gets political. I mean, listen, everything is political ultimately because you're talking about why something didn't change, why was the government not responsive. So everything's political. So we're not politicizing this. It's just there are politics involved in this. It's a fair question, right? It's a fair question. Why were FEMA funds not allocated to improve the conditions in that particular area as it was described? right? As it was described. Why were FEMA dollars not used? Why was money from the infrastructure bill that was appropriated to solve one of these problems in that area? Why was it not used? And more importantly, where did the money go? There was the issue. Again, this is where I always say the private sector doesn't solve things, so government has to step in. The private sector in Texas, in this particular area, did not address this. You've heard the judge say, well, we get floods all the time. Okay, if you get floods all the time, is it really such a great idea to have that camp there? Especially as we are now seeing more frequent and more intense flooding. If that's the case, right, then why is it not addressed, or why was it not addressed? So that's a question that people who live in Texas, you should be asking that question. You should be demanding answers. Was there FEMA money allocated for this project? And why was it not allocated? Why did it not approve? Right? So yes, everything is political here. We don't want it to be, but it is, because it was policy, and there were monies that were appropriated to potentially solve this problem, to avoid. Now, we can't, there's no way anyone would know that even if all the staffing was filled, right? Even if every vacant seat was filled, they weren't cut, and FEMA monies, we cannot definitively say that a single life would have been saved. But logic tells us that, yeah, lives could have been saved because people would have had more warning time, or they would have put systems in place to address this, or they might have said, we got that first warning, and modeling tells us this is going to get very bad, so we're going to coordinate our evacuation. We're going to do it now. So I don't know. I've got a little bit more sound from the officials, because it seems to me, ultimately, yes, we know there are staffing cuts. We know that is absolutely happened, but it seems like the issue is really on the ground, that they didn't either take it seriously, or more importantly, when they were given an opportunity to invest in their infrastructure, they didn't. So this is a gentleman from, I forget his name, but I'll have it for you. I'll play the sound as well. This is City Manager Dalton Rice, why the evacuations weren't ordered before the floods hit. So I'll play this for you.
Evacuation. Well, why don't we evacuate? Well, evacuation is a delicate balance, because if you evacuate too late, you then risk putting buses, or cars or vehicles or campers on roads into low water areas, trying to get them out, which then can make it even more challenging, because these flash floods happen very quickly.
Was there any discussion to evacuate or activate any emergency plans before it was too late, where it would be very dangerous like that?
Well, so again, just like disasters in Texas everywhere, it's very tough to make those calls, because what we also don't want to do is cry wolf. We don't want to make sure that we activate it at the right time. Wow. It is very difficult, very challenging, especially with this. We're looking at 100 kilometers, right? That's a big straight line distance. That's not even along the river. These areas take a lot of time to get out to. So even when first responders were on the ground at 3:30 in the morning, and we had reports, we had first responders that were getting swept away, actually responding to the first areas of rainfall. That's how quick it happened. First responders who have experience, who are swift water qualified, were driving to as soon as the rain started falling, were driving to these areas, and one of them got swept off the road.
I don't think cry wolf was the appropriate point or words to be used there. There's so much to unpack there. So, as somebody who used to play poker a lot, and somebody who I can read people pretty well, the look on his face, he knows that he's going to have to be answering some pretty harsh questions, because he is the city manager. So he would be one of the people that would ultimately be responsible for public safety. Now, you say you can't evacuate too late, because then you might have buses. Yeah, we know that. The question is, why didn't you do it earlier? Well, we didn't want to cry wolf. So then we use that sound, then the sound we played from the judge in Kirk County saying we get floods here all the time. Isn't it better Isn't it better to be safe? Do you think anybody would really care if they got evacuated and no flood came? Do you think they would really care? They would say, hey, the town's looking out for us. We don't know what's going to happen. We really want to be safe. Instead, they say, yeah, let's just wait till it gets really bad. Then we can't evacuate at all. So there needs to be answers to this question, right? There needs to be answers to the question. And again, spent a lot of time on this, still not sleeping, different conversation though. The National Weather Service did their job. Even with the reduction in staff, the National Weather Service got the information out. The problem is the cuts, especially to those local agencies, the local National Weather Service agencies, with the people whose job directly is to respond with local officials, those positions were vacant. Staff surged, but that was reactive staff, not preparedness staff. And that's the difference. And then the local officials now have a lot of questions that they're going to have to answer, specifically because there were famous, yes or no, Steve, we evacuated for a hurricane that didn't come, and next hurricanes were only a few, and we were only a few who left. Yes or no, Steve, we evacuated for a hurricane that didn't come, and next hurricane, we were only a few who left. I don't know if I understand your question. Are you saying that it's better to be safe than sorry? I don't know. We can talk about that. But anyway, the specifics are, what did they not do that they were supposed to do? And it seems like a lot. And innocent lives were lost because people did not prepare properly. They were allocated resources to improve, even if they improved it 2%, 5%, even if they addressed, they didn't even have sirens in many cases. They didn't even have flood sirens. They waited to the last minute, and they did not respond. And we've seen the argument from people on the right trying to defend this. I don't know why you're trying to defend it. Why are you trying to defend this? There are people whose job it is to protect citizens. It's a role of government. It's a fundamental role of government. Provide the general welfare. That is a fundamental role of our government, right? And state, federal, local, whatever it might be. Why didn't this get done? It was addressed. Why didn't it get done? So we've got some more sound that I want to play, specifically from the administration, but some people have requested, so I'll talk to some folks and then we'll get back to our story. Everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. Let's see if we get 100K before Sherry departs this morning. Good morning, Sherry. How are you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Hi.
Well, first of all, good morning. And
morning.
I'm a Texan, and I live in Southeast Texas, and I know one of the little girls that passed away. They found her body yesterday. I don't know her personally. I work for her, the doctor. I mean, I know of her, and it hits really hard at home when you know. And my understanding is that you're correct. Or on the river is horrible. They don't, it's spotty. It's hard to get calls out. It's bad. I actually have been a vacation, and also, and Texas has got a history of not doing what they need to do. The Republican, I'm just saying it. I live 20 miles from the Gulf of Mexico, and I'm a victim of Harvey, and I mean, and that was bad information. So it's Texas and all the people that died during the winter storm, because of the grids not being correct.
Correct.
And
yep.
And so Texas got a lot of problems, and we need to seriously look at our politicians. I mean, I'm sorry, I was going to say Ted Cruz needs to lose his job. He didn't do anything about nothing's been done about the infrastructure for the people if it gets cold again, and it does get cold in the winter in Texas.
Sure it does.
And then,
sure it does.
And then my understanding is that they had a bill up. I don't know the details of it, but that there was a bill to, and I don't even know that, they said the number of it that was going to put sirens and stuff at the river, because they know that river is dangerous. When it rains, this happens. Now, not to this magnitude, but it does happen. I believe it happened again. It happened in 1987 or 88.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a dangerous
we know,
river.
Sherry. It is, and I appreciate you jumping in. And I'm sorry to hear that you know of one of the victims, and I think that's the point. But thank you for being here today, Sherry. I appreciate you.
Welcome.
Have a good day. All right. It's kind of the point, right? I mean, Texas politics has been red for a very, very long time, and things just seem to keep happening. And again, like we started the show with today, we don't want to be celebrating or saying, hey, fucking Texas got what it fucking deserved. Elections have consequences. Your ideologies, your beliefs, your apathy, indifference, selfishness, whatever it might be, there are consequences. We have quite a few examples now of the Texas grid and infrastructure failing its citizens. In 2025, in the United States of America, the richest country on earth, Texas, big economy, people should not be losing their lives because of things that can be fixed. So, yeah. All right. A couple more things here. And then the issue now that I'll bring up one more guest. Everybody keep tapping. Hi, Maureen. How are you?
Hey, Steve. I'm good. I worked in healthcare for 35 years, and this is amazing to me that it is political because it's a failure on several levels. I don't think anybody should make babies. This happened to babies. I mean, one side believes that climate change isn't real. The storms are getting worse.
Well, I don't think anybody made this happen to babies. I think the question is there was failures in government to address something that was obviously serious.
Oh, no.
That's not a failure.
My words are wrong. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
It happens all the time.
I know what you meant.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, they're going back to Obama's years. I forgot. 2016? Was he? Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was still the president in 2016, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why are we doing that? I mean, that isn't insane entirely.
Yeah, I think you're right, Maureen. I appreciate you jumping in today, but thank you for your perspective on friends. Have a good day.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Hold on a second. What happened there? Good morning, the GOAT.
What's up, Steve?
How you doing?
Hey, we've never actually spoken before. I'm a Trump supporter. Do you hear yourself? Texas got what they want, even though it wasn't what you meant.
I didn't say that.
I know that, even though that wasn't. You said that isn't what you meant, but nobody was even thinking that, even on this side.
I didn't say that at all.
But
in fact,
you're the one thinking about it.
No. I've called that out directly. In fact, I made a video and I commented on it that somebody said that Texas got what they voted for, and I hate that. I hate that sentiment. Unfortunately, elections do have consequences, though.
That's right. And you said that it's the government's duty to protect its citizens, right? It
is, yeah.
But y'all had an issue with protecting California from the riots by deploying the National Guard, right?
Dude, let's start a conversation again. What'd you have for breakfast today?
Sure.
What'd you have for breakfast today?
Are you going to boot me?
That's why. See ya. You know, it's just.
What is that? No.
Hi, Jazzy. How are you? Jazzy, are you there?
No, didn't mean to.
Jazzy, are you there?
Sorry.
Jazzy.
Please drop me.
Okay, no problem. Sorry. Just a really good example, right? We're having a conversation about how we need to address the failures of government, right? And instead of addressing the failure of government that led to the loss of innocent lives, because MAGA men in particular are so scared, soft, and weak, they need to find an excuse for failure of Republican policies in their state, in the state of Texas. And instead, they want to go to California. And they want to go to California, where the citizens weren't under threat until ICE showed up, and until the National Guard showed up, until the Marine Corps showed up. Nice try, though, Goat. Nice try. Greatest of all time doing what? Being a douchebag? Probably. Okay. So, and then we get the rhetoric, because everything is political, right? Everything. Yeah, Runner. Okay. Runner. Okay. There were 680 people in here, Goat, and we exposed you for the pathetic person that you are. But you enjoy your day. And then, of course, we get more rhetoric from the White House, right? We get rhetoric from the White House because there's always going to be an attempt to try to blame someone other than the fact that they made staffing cuts. Again, I want to be very, very clear here. The National Weather Service did its job at the national level by issuing these alerts and these warnings. The issue specifically, as it was pointed out by not only Fox News, but the AP, ABC, others, there were staffing shortages at the local agencies where these alerts would then be coordinated from the National Weather Service to the local officials. And that was the gap. So you don't need to address that if you don't want to. I wouldn't either, because that pokes a hole in your argument. Okay? Anyway. All right, so then let's talk about how we got the responses from the White House.
Like the con job of...
Not that one. I'll play that one in a minute. The ironic part about this whole response from the White House is that there's always going to be an attempt to try to blame someone other than the fact that some of these decisions that they made led directly to what happened. So I'm going to find an interesting bit of sound for you because I think it's kind of telling, at least from my perspective, as to the excuse making. So this is Kaylee. Again, I keep calling her Kaylee. Caroline. This is her statement, and I want you to listen to this. This is interesting.
Start by addressing the devastation from the tragic flash floods in Texas. Moments ago, the Department of Homeland Security provided an update that 91 innocent souls have now perished. Everyone here at the White House, including the President of the United States, is praying for the victims' families and friends during this unimaginable time. President Trump swiftly signed a major disaster declaration for Kerr County, Texas, to ensure our heroic first responders have every resource they need in the relief and recovery efforts. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem traveled to Texas over the weekend, and the entire Trump administration is working hand in glove with state and local officials to provide every assistance available. The situation on the ground remains dangerous, and there could be additional public safety threats with potential incoming heavy rain. So we encourage everyone in the area to remain vigilant, listen to all warnings, and respond accordingly. Unfortunately, in the wake of this once-in-a-generation natural disaster, we have seen many falsehoods pushed by Democrats such as Senator Chuck Schumer and some members of the media. Blaming President Trump for these floods is a depraved lie, and it serves no purpose during this time of national mourning. Here are the facts. In the lead up to this tragic natural disaster, the National Weather Service did its job. Despite unprecedented rainfall, the National Weather Service executed timely and precise forecasts and warnings. On July 3rd, the National Weather Service office in Austin, San Antonio, Texas, conducted forecast briefings for emergency management in the morning and issued a flood watch in the early afternoon. Flash flood warnings were also issued on the night of July 3rd and in the early morning of July 4th, giving preliminary lead times of more than 3 hours before flash flooding conditions occurred. And the National Weather Service office in New Braunfels, which delivers forecasts for Austin, San Antonio, and the surrounding areas, had extra staff on duty during the storms, despite claims of the contrary. So to any person who has deliberately lied about these facts surrounding this catastrophic event, you should be deeply ashamed. At this time, the administration's focus will be giving the victims and their communities the support they deserve during these recovery efforts in this tragic time. May God bless the great people of Texas, especially the parents who have lost their children. President Trump loves you. We are praying for you, and he will be traveling to see you later this week. National Weather Service provided early and consistent warnings. They gave out timely flash flood alerts. There were record-breaking lead times in the lead up to the.
What's a record-breaking lead time? Again, that's part of the strategy. A record-breaking lead time? What the fuck does that even mean? I didn't pick that up when I first listened to this.
This catastrophe. There is ongoing flood monitoring, and these offices were well staffed. In fact, one of the offices was actually overstaffed. They had more people than they need. So any claim to the contrary is completely false. And it's just sad that people are pushing these lies.
President Trump reconsidering his plan to phase out FEMA, given what officials have said is their critical role on the ground now in Texas.
Look, the president wants to ensure American citizens always have what they need during times of need. Whether that assistance comes from states or the federal government, that's a policy discussion that will continue. And the president has always said he wants states to do as much as they can, if not more. And in the case of Texas, the state and local officials are doing a tremendous job. And I know the president, Secretary Noem, and the federal government are very proud to be working with them. And the president has promised to give Texas the assistance that they need during this tragic time.
Interesting. So lots of things to unpack there. First of all, record-breaking lead times, right? And the president is committed. The question was, are you going to reconsider eliminating FEMA? And we've already seen the right saying the president never said that. I'll play some sound for you in just a moment. Two things. We want to make sure, I mean, they're kind of telling a little bit right there. I want to make sure that the states are picking up the tab. That's what they're basically saying. So again, if it's a state that voted for you, Mr. President, you're going to do what? You're going to take money from, I don't know, Alligator Alcatraz or whatever else that might be, and provide resources to the victims of Texas, get money on the ground? Or is it that you just don't give a flying fuck because you are now caught in a lie and your own press secretary can't even answer the question? Some of the things that she said. Remember, I went back and I basically found the timeline, okay? She talked about staff surging, and that is a deflection away from the issue. That's why I gave you the timeline first and the impact of what the cuts are, because I kind of expected this is where they were going to go with this. DOJ's efficiency-driven cuts, nearly 600 National Weather Service staff members were eliminated earlier this year. The vacancy rates at several offices, including San Angelo, San Antonio, and New Braunfels, doubled. Crucially, these vacancies included warning coordination meteorologists and other roles responsible for storm modeling, forecast coordination, and direct liaison with emergency managers. We know the National Weather Service issued these warnings. This is the timeline again. Hang on one second. 12:41 a.m., first flash flood wish issued for Kerr County, isolated rainfall up to 10 inches possible. Thursday, July 3rd, 1 p.m., National Weather Service issues a flood watch for Kerr, Bandera, and neighboring counties. Warning of 5 to 7 inches of rain. 6:22 p.m., National Weather Center sounds alert, considerable flooding risk in the Hill Country. 8:12 p.m., flood watch extended as storms persist. That's the National Weather Service. Question is the gap between the National Weather Service alerts and reactions on the ground, and because that position, a crucial role, a critical role in emergency preparedness and response, was cut. That seat was literally vacant. So the staff surge at that point was after the fact. We know that. July 4th, 1:14 a.m., flash flood warning activation for Kerr and Bandera County with impact-based considerable alert messaging. 4:03 a.m., upgraded to flash flood emergency in South Central Kerr with orders to seek higher ground. 4 to 5 a.m., Guadalupe River rapidly surging. Hunt's gauge jumps 10 plus feet in an hour, hitting 29 feet before it failed. 5:34 a.m., July 4th, emergency extended downriver to Kerrville after the river jumps 21 feet. Late morning on 4th of July, Kerr County evacuation begins near the Guadalupe Mystic. Again, 7 a.m. on July 4th. That is 27 hours after the first flood watch. The first flood watch. Now, and then less than, 18 hours, the first evacuation order. Let me get this timeline right. Kerr County evacuation begins 7 a.m. on July 4th. The National Weather Center sent an alert out at 6:22 p.m. the evening before, considerable flooding risk in that area. So that was the question, right? Why was there such a gap between when those initial warnings that came out from the NWS to when the evacuation orders? And then we heard from the Texas county official that, well, you gotta be right about this. Where's that sound again? Let's just play it real quickly, because I think that's the important part of this conversation. People trying to take responsibility over what happened, and I want to make sure that we're calling out the people who need to be called out. That's what this conversation's about, plain and simple. I don't want to point fingers, except I don't want to point fingers at the people responsible. This guy.
Evacuations. Well, why don't we evacuate? Well, evacuation is a delicate balance, because if you evacuate too late, you then risk putting buses, or cars or vehicles.
In other words, you evacuated too late.
Or campers on roads into low water areas trying to get them out, which then can make it even more challenging, because these flash floods happen very quickly.
Was there any discussion to evacuate or activate any emergency plans before it was too late, where it would be very dangerous like that?
Well, so again, just like disasters in Texas everywhere, it's very tough to make those calls, because what we also don't want to do is cry wolf. We don't want to make sure that we.
Okay, you get the point. Again, the timeline on that is the initial flash flood watch went out 12:41 a.m. on July 3rd. 6:22 p.m. on July 3rd. National Weather Center sounds alert, considerable flooding risk. Late morning, the next day, so 13 hours later, Kerr County evacuation begins. So that's where the explanation needs to come from. Okay. All right. So again, I played you the sound from Caroline. This is an attempt to try to say that the National Weather Service, under the direction of Donald Trump, did its job. No, sadly. Intentionally, because you cut people. We now have enough data to say, yeah, we can draw a straight line. I'll make that call. So this is Mr. Trump responding to questions specifically about that area. This is pretty wild. But again, I was expecting the what about Biden. I just wasn't expecting it this soon.
Are you still planning to phase out FEMA?
Well, FEMA is something we can talk about later. But right now they're busy working, so we'll leave it at that. Go ahead.
Are you investigating whether some of the cuts to the federal government left key vacancies at the National Weather Service or in the emergency coordination?
No, they did not. They did. I'll tell you, if you look at that what a situation that all is, and that was really the Biden setup. That was not our setup, but I wouldn't blame Biden for it either. I would just say this is a 100-year catastrophe. And it's just so horrible to watch.
Are you planning to visit Texas, Mr. President?
Probably on Friday. We wanted to leave a little time. I would have done it today, but we'd just be in their way. Probably Friday.
Mr. President, in light of the floods, do you think that the federal government needs to hire back any of the meteorologists who were fired in the last few months?
I wouldn't know that. I really wouldn't. I would think not. This was the thing that happened in seconds. Nobody expected it. Nobody saw it. Very talented people are there, and they didn't see it. it's, I guess they said once in 100 years, they've never seen anything like this. So I wouldn't, people are trying to blame the school, they're trying to blame the camp, they're trying to blame, it's just a horrible thing. But no, I wouldn't say that, no.
Yeah, exactly. At what point will it not be Biden's fault? Yeah, well, that's a Biden setup. Although I'm not going to blame him. So why would you say it? I don't know. I don't think we need to hire back the people who we fired. Acknowledging, by the way, that it's a great question by the reporter because she knows that he's too stupid to answer. Do you feel like we should reconsider replacing some of the people that you fired? Well, I don't think so. Well, again, acknowledging the fact that he fired people, acknowledging that, and then saying, "Yeah, I don't think so. Don't think so. I don't think it's necessary." So here you go. Okay. So, and then that leads us to the FEMA conversation, right? So I'm going to play some sound. This is from a cabinet meeting on March 25th of this year. And you're going to hear from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. And I want you to listen to the end. I'll play it. It's only a minute, 10 seconds, but I want you to listen to the end. Okay? So this is Chris. And I want you to hear the things that she's talking about, like the priorities of her agency. Okay? Just here you go.
This last week I was in Arizona, California, Alaska, and Florida. And CBP literally has almost 100% operational control of the border, which means that our country is secure and that we know who's coming into this country and that they love our country and they want to help keep it great into the future. We are, in the month of March, the last couple of weeks, increased our deportations by 50%. So we're now not even just getting the worst of the worst out. We're making sure that there's consequences for being here and committing crimes in our communities. Russia is using their cutters and icebreakers up in the Arctic to do surveillance on us, and we're going to reposition our fleet to continue to partner. I want to thank the Secretary of Defense and the Navy for all of their help and partnership too. We do operations together because their obvious Navy warships are in certain regions, but our cutters are faster and can work together in a partnership that's securing America. So,
wait for it.
And we're going to eliminate FEMA. So we've got a lot to do, but it's all good, and we're working hard, and we're going to make sure that we're continuing to do exactly what you promised.
Great job. That's great. Great job. You heard that, right? Here you go.
Navy warships are in certain regions, but our cutters are faster and can work together in a partnership that's securing America. So, and we're going to eliminate FEMA. So we've got together in a partnership that's securing America. So together in a partnership that's securing America. So, and we're going to eliminate FEMA. So, and we're going to eliminate FEMA. So, and we're going to eliminate FEMA. So
you get the point. Okay. You're right. I know it's in Project 2025. So elections have consequences. And, I know many people think on the right, especially illiterate and mouth-breathing potatoes like Goat from this morning, who voted for this, they think being the president and being in government is like a fucking game show. That it's easy to go around to your rallies and sell your alligator Alcatraz merch and your watches and your perfumes and your guitars and your shirts and everything else. But when the time comes to actually have to govern and you are completely incompetent, that's what you get. The Federal Emergency Management Agency provides resources to states to help them with natural disasters, hurricanes, floods, fires, earthquakes, etc., etc., etc. So now, Kristi Noem says we're just going to cut it. We're going to cut FEMA. And he's like, good job. Great job. Good for you. Cool. Thank you. Okay. So when Texas doesn't get FEMA money because the budget's cut, and Texas doesn't get those positions that Mr. Trump admitted to cutting, and they doesn't get them back, and then the next natural disaster happens, and then the next natural disaster happens, you going to continue to blame Biden? The experts who monitor these kinds of things, watchdog groups, They talk about preparedness and how the government responds to things. They gave the Biden administration A+ across the board in how they responded to federal disasters and emergency declarations. Now, that doesn't get talked about enough because we get drowned out by the right-wing bullshit. Obama as well. You're right. So here we are. Here we are. 100-year storms that happen every couple of years now. We've got the Department of Homeland Security, whose job, by the way, is not just to go after brown-skinned people, whether they've committed crimes or not. It's also to be in a position where you're helping with national security, because national security is also impacted during a disaster. And she's celebrating, oh yeah, and we're going to cut FEMA. Get rid of FEMA, kill it, boom, done, gone. To use that money to do what? Oh, I don't know, pay for a billionaire tax cut? DHS had their budget increased 20-fold, from like $4 billion to like $25 billion, or whatever the fuck it was. So, yeah, good luck with that. I'm just saying, good luck with that. And then I've got a little bit more sound to play on this topic, and then we'll move on to our next one, because I've got some sound from Ted Cruz too, of course. We have to hear from Ted because Ted. I don't know why Texas keeps electing Ted, and you can talk about it from a gerrymander perspective, but that's a statewide election. I know that Houston is. I think it's Harris County. The election officials have been snapped there for suppressing the vote of millions of voters potentially. I don't know, but this is Ted. Just have to, again, because he's a representative of your state, and people who don't vote, people who don't show up, apathetic leftists who couldn't pull themselves off their whiny cabinet of complaining about everything to get out there and vote for opposition just because you didn't like the Democrat, because you say, oh, well, Democrats support this. Well, this is what you got. So this is where consequences happen.
President Trump, he was having dinner at the time. It was still early in what was transpiring. And I wanted him to know, I said, Mr. President, everything we're hearing right now, this appears to be bad, really bad. There may be a very significant loss of life unfolding right now in Texas. And I will tell you, the president said, Ted, anything Texas needs, the answer is yes. Whatever assets you need, whatever resources you need, yes, let us know, and we will provide everything. Within hours, we had helicopters, over a dozen helicopters in the air.
Helicopters.
National Guard, DPS, game wardens, Coast Guard, doing search and rescue, reaching down. We've all seen the videos of little girls being pulled up, hoisted out of harm's way. Incredible courage and heroism.
God, he just... Remember last week we did the Who's the Bigger Ass Kisser? Pam Bondi. Who was on our list? It was Pam Bondi. It was Pete Hegseth. And it was Chrissy Noem, maybe? We got to add Ted to the list, but... Just a reminder, guys, we are crowdfunded here. There's a live goal today. If you want to participate, all my socials are at FactsStillMatter. Don't forget about our gifting goal, and please consider subscribing to the channel as we march towards our next subscriber level spinorama. If we can hit our target between now and Friday, which we need about 50 or so subs to hit that number, we will spin the wheel again for another merch giveaway. So I think we can officially or effectively say that we've addressed the issue, and we'll continue to track this because government has a role. You know, government is primary directive is to protect its citizenry. That's its primary goal, and there were failures. And what we want to know is why. Why after resources were allocated, why were they not used on multiple occasions? Why were these positions that are critical in the workflow of disseminating information and then getting information out, right? Why was that not done? Why is the president now faced with saying, do you regret firing those meteorologists and will you bring them back? I don't think so. And then cheering on FEMA going away. Okay, well, watch this, because as we've heard before, don't forget, there's been threats made against states that he doesn't like, California in particular, that they're going to withhold federal dollars, right? But yet Texas is going to get what they need? Okay. Remember how we went through this exercise yesterday of what two separate Americas might look like? Thank you, guys. what two separate Americas might look like? Well, here we are. Here we are in a situation where we might have two separate Americas. The thing about blue states is that they can fund themselves, and red states can't. So red states require the federal government, and most people on the right don't like that. So good luck. That's all I can tell you. All right. So the next topic of our day here is this applies to Trump always chickens out. We have to talk more about the Epstein files, or the Epstein tapes, the Epstein client list. Thank you. Those are cool. If anybody doesn't think that this is a full-on cover-up, I don't know how else we could describe it. I really don't know. I don't know how else we would describe it. Because we know the history. We know their history. We know what his own administration has told us. So I'm going to play some of the sound from Kash Patel, from Pam Bondi. But before I do that, okay, I found this letter that was sent to Kash Patel from Pam Bondi. Let me see if I have it queued up here. Hang on one second. I'm going to read that to you, and then we'll kind of get into some of the sound that goes in support of this. And also, I want you to hear from how people in the right-wing circles who've been so incredibly, I could say, supportive of the president, and see what they have to say about this. Okay, so this is dated. This is from Pam. Is this right? Is this the right one? Hold on. Where is it? I've got an official memorandum from the Department of Justice as it specifically relates to this case and their decision to not continue to prosecute or investigate. And then I've got the letter that Pam wrote. Where is it? Right here. Okay. All right. This is dated. This is from the Office of the Attorney General, and this is dated February 27th, 2025. And this goes directly to Director Patel. Again, Office of the Attorney General, dated February 27th, 2025. Dear Director Patel, this is from Pam Bondi. Before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 pages of documents, which consisted primarily of flight logs, Epstein's list of clients, and a list of victims' names and phone numbers. I repeatedly questioned whether this was a full set of documents responsive to my request, and was repeatedly assured by the FBI that we had received the full set of documents. Late yesterday, I learned from a source that the FBI field office in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein. Despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the existence of these files. When you and I spoke yesterday, you were just as surprised as I was to learn this new information. By 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, February 28th, the FBI will deliver the full and complete Epstein files to my office, including all records, documents, audio and video recordings, and materials related to Jeffrey Epstein and his clients, regardless of how such information was obtained. There will be no withholdings or limitations to my or your access. The Department of Justice will ensure that any public disclosure of these files will be done in a manner to protect the privacy of victims and in accordance with law, as I have done my entire career as a prosecutor. I am also directing you to conduct an immediate investigation into why my order to the FBI was not followed. You will deliver to me a comprehensive report of your findings and proposed personnel action within 14 days. I appreciate your immediate attention to this important matter. I know that we are both committed to transparency for the American people, and I look forward to continuing to work with you to serve our president and our country. Again, the highlight of this letter, this was sent from the Attorney General, dated February the 27th, 2025, to Kash Patel. This is the takeaway. I received before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 pages of documents, which consisted of flight logs, Epstein's list of contacts, and a list of victims' names and phone numbers. Okay. So we were informed yesterday that there was no contact list. There was no list, client list. What was that then? So let's just go back in time just a little bit because these things are incredibly important. This was Peter Doocy being interviewed or asking a question. Every once in a while, Peter does ask a good question, right? I think he's a tool, but every once in a while he asks what I believe to be a pretty good question. Why is that not loading? I've got something else I can play. Hang on a second. So Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, made her rounds on Fox News. And where is it? There's so much data here, you guys. Do I have it? Hang on a second. Somewhere. Hold on. Maybe I don't have it. Stand by. Everybody keep tapping and sharing. Tapping is clapping, sharing is caring, liking is loving. Do I have that? I'll just do it this way. Hang on a second. Give me a second. Here we go. I found it. So this was Pam Bondi being interviewed back in February on Fox, specifically as it relates to that letter that I just read to you, that she was in possession of this information with flight logs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is Pam Bondi in being interviewed on this, and I'll play the sound for you as soon as the commercial gets done playing, because I don't want to advertise whatever the hell that is. Oh, it's for Hulu, but still, I don't want to advertise that. Hold on. I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. I've already got my hand slapped. All right.
I saw your appearance at CPAC with Ben and with Ted Cruz, and one of the things that you've alluded to, and this is something Donald Trump has talked about, the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you.
Okay. So this is a bold-faced fucking cover-up. There's no way it is anything other than that. So this is the letter that accompanied this is the announcement from the U.S. Department of Justice Federal Bureau of Investigation in regards to basically closing the case. As part of the commitment of you're going to throw up in your mouth with just the first part of the first sentence. As a part of our commitment to transparency, the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation have conducted an exhaustive review of investigative holdings relating to Jeffrey Epstein. To ensure that the review was thorough, the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas where responsive material may have been stored. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. The files relating to Epstein include a large volume of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child abuse material and other pornography. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and privacy and civil liberties experts comb through the digital and documentary evidence with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting victims. Much of the material is subject to court-ordered sealing. Only a fraction of this material would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial, as the seal served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Through this review, we found no basis to revisit the disclosure of those materials and will not permit the release of child pornography. The systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Consistent with prior disclosures, this review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Each suffered unique trauma. Sensitive information relating to these victims is intertwined throughout the material. This includes specific details such as victim names and likenesses, physical descriptions, places of birth, associates, and employment history. One of our highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims. Perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither of those ends. To that end, while we have labored to provide the public with maximum information regarding Epstein and ensured examination of any evidence in the government's possession, it is the determination of the DOJ and the FBI that no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. After a thorough investigation, FBI investigators concluded that Jeffrey Epstein committed self-unaliving in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York on August 10, 2019. This conclusion is consistent with previous findings, including the August 19, 2019 autopsy findings by the New York City Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, the November 19th position of the U.S. Attorney's Office at the Southern District in connection with the investigation of federal correctional officers responsible for guarding Epstein, and the June 2023 conclusion of the DOJ's Office of the Inspector General. The conclusion that Epstein unalived by suicide is further supported by video footage from the common area of the self-housing unit where Epstein was housed at the time of his unaliving. As DOJ's Inspector General explained in 2023, anyone entering or attempting to enter where Epstein's cell was from the SHU common area would have been captured by this footage. The FBI's independent review of this footage confirmed that from the time Epstein was locked in his cell at around 10:40 p.m. on August 9, 2019 until around 6:30 a.m. the next morning, nobody entered any of the areas of the SHU. During this review, the FBI enhanced the relevant footage by increasing in contrast, in color, and improving sharpness for greater clarity and viewability. The full raw, then there's a link, and we'll put this in the Discord. It's cover up. It's a blatant cover up. I mean, it's like you can't on one hand send a letter to your FBI acknowledging that you're in possession of a client list and then saying that there's no such thing as a client list. I don't know how they're going to spin the way out of this one, especially when you have people in your sphere losing their fucking minds over this. Lots of people on the right are losing it now. All right, so this was Kash Patel. I believe he was on with Joe Rogan. So I'm going to play some sound for you. Now that we've got all the information out of the way, now that we've got the letter from Pam Bondi to Kash Patel saying, I got a bunch of stuff here. I got a client list. I got victims' names. I got addresses. I got allegations of crimes. I got some video, but I hear there's more. Why don't I have it? And then saying, oh yeah, it's on my desk. And now, yeah, there's no client list. So this is Kash Patel being interviewed, and then Pam Bondi responding to what he acknowledging what he says here.
Again, logical play out. If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
Tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims, and no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going.
That's one example. Okay. Got some more. Let's see. This is Alex Jones. Okay, I don't normally platform Alex Jones, but we have to play this, and I have to share this sound with you because this is what you're going to see from the people who follow him, because he still has a big following, and the weave that he wants to, the bullshit that he wants to spew. This is crazy shit. But there's an acknowledgement here, like, what the fuck? Why did this not get released? This is wild.
This is the swamp winning. The question is Trump's DOJ actually using this to control the deep state? Or are they just so overwhelmed by it, they are tapping out? There is no Epstein client list. There never was any blackmail operation. Epstein killed himself, and the investigation's closed. I know what's going on. Trump had two ways to go with all of this. He could prosecute all of these incredibly prominent people, household names, or they could use the information to blackmail the deep state. The reason that you are seeing this deep sixth is because the CIA with the Mossad and MI6 was running Epstein, and it was an official U.S. government operation. If Trump was to actually prosecute this, it would bring down the CIA. Yeah, wouldn't say all that if you were planning to cover it up from the beginning. So something has changed along the way, and it all points towards this being used to blackmail the deep state. I'm not endorsing it. I think clearly this is what Musk learned about a few months ago, and looked like he aged 10 years overnight. He was completely freaked out. It's just absolute horseshit. It's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. Trump is doing a lot of good, and a lot of good's happening. This is very, very painful and nauseating. I was physically nauseated in the last 3 hours since I got up and just trying to collate this.
So, it's good to know that Alex Jones has learned his lesson. It's really good to know that he's learned his lesson about why, the dangers of spreading conspiracy theories and how it can get you in trouble, because he continues to spread conspiracy theories that are going to get himself into trouble. So in his flash goal, I'll do this. 40 individual roses, please, friends. So in his mind, that this was, again, part of the plan. So we're gonna tell people there's a client list so we can throw them off. And then we're gonna remind people that this is Trump's attempt, because he's playing 4D chess, to use it as a blackmail tool against the deep state. And people will fucking believe it. What are they gonna say? What else are they gonna say? They can't acknowledge that this has been promised to us, and now it's not, and now we're not gonna get it. Most people would draw a logical conclusion that maybe the guy who said we're going to release it is on it. I don't know. That's just one man's opinion. So I've got some video or some sound on that particular topic. So let me pull this up, because this speaks to a little bit what we're talking about. Let me find it first. This is a little nutty. You guys might remember this little flashback. Again, I've got so much data here. So much stuff that I pulled for this. I'll get it all. We'll play it all, I promise. Okay, this is... Here you go.
If you were president, would you declassify... You can answer yes or no to these. Yeah. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
Yes, I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if there's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least...
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
9/11, yeah. JFK, I'm with you. Jeffrey Epstein, yeah. Well,
Exactly. So... Now, all right, here's a little test. Any magas in the chat, whether that be my daily fanboys who are still trying to get fitted for their tuxedos for our throuple wedding, or people like Goat who show up, or whoever else that might be, I want you to ask yourself this question. 2 days ago, you guys were desperate and absolutely looking forward to the Epstein list being released. Now we're told that there's no Epstein list and the case is closed. Are you angry? Is this manipulation by the deep state? Is this somehow Joe Biden's fault? What about Biden? Just maybe, again, I know I'm asking a lot here because it would require a little bit of critical thinking. But one of the questions that's been asked that I was watching trolling this Right Wing Spaces, and they're losing their shit. Even hardcore, some of the most hardcore MAGA are trying to figure out why this is not out. And even somebody who is hardcore MAGA played the same sound that I played about Pam Bondi saying, I've got the list. And he's like, well, she told us she's got the list and now there's no longer a list, right? So they're losing their shit trying to square this in their brains. How are they going to square it? You can't have it both ways. And even they are now starting to ask themselves, he must be on it, because they're trying to find a way to navigate through this. It's just an interesting exercise. You guys know me and the human condition. So I'm always curious about how people are going to respond to certain things. You know, this whole cognitive dissonance, critical thinking is really catching up to them because they've got really nowhere to go. And we've got them on the record saying, the president's like, maybe not. I got nothing to hide. I got nothing to hide at all. You mind if I look through your phone? Well, I don't know if that's necessary. I got nothing to hide at all. Do you mind if I look through your checkbook? I don't really think that's necessary. You want to release the JFK tapes? Absolutely. MLK stuff? Totally, no doubt about it. Area 51? Sure, no thing. Epstein tapes? Well, I don't want to put anybody under threat. And then the question was, why wasn't this released during the Biden administration? Why wasn't it released under the Trump administration the first time? I think you can make a legitimate case to say, yeah, there are a lot of victims on this list and you got to redact all the names. Sure. Again, I don't want excuses. If the list needs to go public, then it needs to go public. But can we just accept it for what it is? This is a fucking cover-up. This is an absolute bona fide cover-up because they know what's on it. Keep in mind, they're always looking for time when they can introduce these things. So they get their cult salivating over the big, beautiful bill where millions of Americans will lose health care and kids will starve because of SNAP cuts and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. NOAA and NWS cuts costing more lives during hurricane season, after school programs being cut, et cetera, et cetera. So they got them salivating over that because the cruelties of the point. Alligator Alcatraz, they're getting their stiffies, their micro penis stiffies over alligator Alcatraz. So now they can just throw this out there thinking, yeah, okay, that they won't even care. They're so focused on this. So there's that. Okay. A little bit more sound to play on this topic, and then I want to talk to you guys about M2. You're like, Facts, what the hell is M2? Well, I'll tell you in just a minute. All right, let's play this sound. I played that one for you. I played Alex Jones. Here's another one. This is Kash Patel with Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson, in case you don't know, was one of the many people on the right that was fueled by Russian state television so that he was being funded to spread mis and disinformation. He had Kash Patel on and they were talking about Jeffrey Epstein. So this is more evidence of this cover-up.
Is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Yeah, why?
Because of who's on that list.
I guess I should have known when I gazed at his vacant eyes that something was missing. That he didn't have all the pieces. And I don't feel the same way about Dan Bongino. I got problems with Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino is like a boxer dog. Okay, it's not the brightest breed, but it's totally loyal and it's very naive. You look at Dan Bongino, he's like a scared boxer dog, and Kash Patel is sitting there next to him, holding a leash, yanking it every once in a while, and he's just trying not to mess up because he's been psyoped so badly. But I wish that I could jump through this camera right now and politically, metaphorically, spiritually, philosophically, rip Kash Patel's face off, turn it around, and show it to him so he can see what a giant looks like.
A giant, he used a derogatory term there to describe Kash Patel. And I think that's the whole point. We see you, right? We see you. We see you. We know what you've done. We know what you're up to. We see you. And you're being dragged because of your blatant hypocrisy and covering up the fact that your boy's on the list. You know it. We know it. Hey, Iowa, how are you?
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Doing all right, brother. What's on your mind?
A couple things really quick, just because I reactivated my X account once Trump and Elon had their fallout. The megaverse is absolutely melting down right now, and it's hilarious. You have some of the faction that you already mentioned that, oh my God, is Trump actually on this thing? You have that crowd. They're finally, like, we all on the left pretty much know that he's there.
Yeah. They're coming to terms with it, mean?
Yeah, they're like, well, maybe the left was right. How could they be correct? You have the other crowd that are all like, oh, Pam Bondi's a treasonous, POS. She's lying, blah blah blah. I'm like, who appointed her and why did he appoint her? Because she fixed stuff for him in Florida. She's a bootlicker. She's a spineless bootlicker.
Of course she is. Yep. I know. I was saying that earlier, right? It's like they don't know where to go. They've got to find somebody else to blame because it can't be Trump.
Yep.
It can't be him. He can't be on that list. Yeah. It's all right. He can't be on the list. So it's got to be Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are plants from the deep state to try to upset and derail President Trump's agenda. That's their argument. You're going to hear that.
Sorry about that work interruption. But yeah, and then the same thing with Kash Patel. They're all saying, well, maybe he's lying. But yet we have, as you've already played out the video, we have evidence that Pam said she had it. She had it. It was on her desk. That was what, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Give or take. Kash said, be prepared for arrests. You're going to be surprised who's going to get arrested. Be prepared, get ready.
Correct.
Even Trump said, yeah, I'm going to release it, as you played that video. And now they are absolutely having crash out after meltdown of, holy crap, we've been lied to. After 2 years of us screaming in their faces. So it is absolutely hysterical. And I'm trying not to be mean, but it's at what point in time is I fucking told you so appropriate, because I think we've already crossed that Rubicon.
Oh, I would say that it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, I look at it this way. I just look at the math. It only takes 1 or 2% of people to peel away and just be finally disgusted. There's talk now of Elon Musk wanting to start his own party, the American Party, whatever the fuck it's called. It only takes a few percentages of people just being completely done. And I'm not saying that those suddenly jump ship and are voting for Democrats, because God, voting for human rights, what an awful thing to do. But they might just decide to not participate at all. So, and I want people to vote. I really do. I want people to vote. I want to see our numbers hit 70% for the first time in our history. I really want it. I want that to happen. But you're right. I mean, people are just like, what the fuck? I mean, I was promised this. I was promised this. I was promised that. I was promised this. The Epstein list, and now nothing. Yeah. So we'll see.
And that's the funny part. I've seen countless tweets, saying this is the red line. And I know you've done it. I've asked it. I know many of your fellow, co-hosts have asked the same question. Where is that mythical, magical red line that, where is it? Just tell me what it is it's going to take. And apparently the Epstein list was the straw that broke so many camels' backs, because they're all in outrage. And they're even turning on their own big right-wing creators. Not trying to drop names, but I'm sure some of the big names on X that are right-wing influencers. They're turning on them, saying you need to cancel your account and go to True Social. If you're truly MAGA, you're going to cancel X. It's just there's going to be a civil war within MAGA, and it's going to be hilarious. So
yeah, I think it started. It's kind of smoldering at this point, but I think you're right. We'll see.
There was one other point I wanted to make, and it is currently escaping my damn mind. So I apologize for that, but
it's all good, buddy. Appreciate you. Appreciate your support as always. Thanks for jumping in today.
Not a problem. You have a good one.
You too. Later. I think he's right. I mean, I think he's right. And it's funny. I've got a little bit more sound to play. This is Alina Habba, because she had to jump in. This was her being interviewed by Piers Morgan not too long ago. But this is, again, just more people in the circle. This is what we were just talking about. More people in the circle have got some strong opinions on this list.
But in this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen.
Did she just call for due process? That's wild.
For so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway. We don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Cash and Pam, there will be accountability.
I'm sorry, one more time.
But in this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway. We don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Cash and Pam, there will be accountability.
So that's Alina Habba, who I believe don't forget, she's the one that used to represent parking garages. And she was one of the people that were involved in Trump's legal wranglings in New York. And she's the one that constantly fucked up by not filling out paperwork correctly. And she was recently named, I think, state's attorney in New Jersey, maybe. But isn't it funny that she's talking, everybody, I can't tell if anybody's innocent or guilty. Well, we have this little thing in our country called habeas corpus and the ability for people to face their accusers and then get due process. Funny how that works. Is that right, Michelle? State's attorney for New Jersey. Anyway, here we are, right? Here we are in this world where this is just a blatant cover up. And somebody made this point earlier. And this is a prime example of the dangers of disinformation. There are so many, but here's a prime example. For years, the right was primed to think that the only people on the list were people that were drinking baby's blood, getting adrenochrome shots, that it was Obama, that it was Clinton, that it was Biden, everybody else. They were convinced of that. They were told every single day. And listen, if any of those people are on that list and that a list eventually comes out and there are connections to crime and they get their day in court and they're found guilty, lock them all the fuck up and throw away the fucking key. See how easy that is? But because now they don't get this list. Thank you, John. I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you very much for your donation. I appreciate you, friend. Because now they don't get the list, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They can't square it in their brain that this list existed. They were told every single day that this list existed. They were told every single day that it's the deep state. It couldn't be Trump because he's a Christian. Couldn't be him. He can't be on it. Can't be anybody that's in the right-wing circles because they talk about God all day long. Caroline Leavitt wears a cross. Pete Hegseth espouses his virtues every single day. It can't be any of them. It's got to be those demonic Democrats. Pizzagate, adrenochrome, every single conspiracy theory, right? And then people saying, well, people need to be held accountable. Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail. Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Okay? So they're both held accountable. But again, the issue is how the right is going to square this. And I don't know if they can. This might be one of those things connected to this whole issue of accountability. I don't know. We'll see. JJ, how are you this morning?
Good. How about you, Fax?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I guess the one thing that I'm just questioning is, why didn't President Biden and the DOJ go after these files while he was president?
Why didn't Trump when he was president the first time?
Well, he died. Yeah, he died in 19. I just was curious that, you know, it would have been such a big deal, you know, of putting this information out when Biden was in. But it was just a question. I mean, I totally believe that Trump's on there. But, you know, I just think that, you know, it would have been even better to have it under Biden.
Well, again, I don't necessarily agree. I mean, again, if we're talking about releasing information specifically, the argument can be made that there's a lot of victims. And don't forget, I think Ghislaine Maxwell was still going through the court process.
That may have been the reason.
So that could have been part of it too. Again, I'm not defending it. I mean, I don't care.
I'm not defending it either. I just you know was sitting here thinking last night. I wondered why that he didn't do it, but it might have been because of Maxwell. You know, being in court.
Yeah,
they could.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I don't care enough about. I don't. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were found accountable, or were held accountable. Anybody else connected to that? If the information comes out, I don't care who it is. I really don't care who it is. I want them to be, but there is an argument to be made. If there are that many victims, if they're talking about thousands of people that are potential victims, how do you guarantee protection for all of them? I don't know if you can. So there has to be some jurisprudence connected to this and responsibility in law enforcement. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. You know, it was just a question that I had. Okay. You've kind of answered it for me. Thank you.
All right. You got it. Have a good day. See you later. Thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.
You too. It's impossible to know, right? It's impossible to know. I guess we'll find out more. I guess we'll find out more.
Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing?
All right. Yeah, I think it's because the list isn't coming out, obviously, because both sides and almost probably a lot of the congressmen and senators are on the list. The next question is like,
that's in your opinion.
In my opinion, yeah. In my opinion, the question we should be asking is, why are there foreign allies, Secret Service agencies involved in making this list and compiling this list, and why are those?
Again, in your opinion, in your opinion.
Yeah, that's what I think we should be asking.
So, were you expecting it to come out?
Oh no, I knew it was never going to come out because Trump is the one on the list with who has the most dirt on him. If you heard Wolf did an interview where he spoke with Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein on tape with his own voice said that his Lolita Express was the first place Donald Trump had intercourse with Melania.
Yeah, again, I want to be careful. I can't confirm that. In your opinion, that's what you've heard.
Well, if you listen to Wolf's podcast, he has his own tape and it's on audio recording. You can listen to it. It's out there, and that's also somebody made the point in the comments. If Trump wasn't on the list, he would have sued Elon Musk and everybody else for defamation for saying he's on the list. If he wasn't,
I know. I mean, that's a very valid point. I think what we're watching here is a result of disinformation and cognitive dissonance and the confirmation bias that the right has been primed and convinced and conditioned to believe that it's everybody but Trump is on this list. And now when even he promised it on a lukewarm promise, Kash Patel promised it, Pam Bondi promised it, Alina Habba promised it, they all promised it was going to be released. And here we are now, and it's not going to be released because not only is it not going to be released, apparently there is no list. And they themselves told us there was a list, so it's impossible that there isn't.
I think it has to do also with aligning characters. I think that these men also don't live clean lives, and there's probably dirt on them. And people went to them and said, "Okay, if you release the whole list, we're going to release this about you." Because if you're really standing in honor and truth in a position such as Kash or any of these other people, nothing can stop you from speaking that truth, or should stop you from honoring your oath also. And if there is something such as this massive honeypot going on in our government, in our organizations, whether it be an ally or an adversary, it must be confronted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree. Again, if we want truth and transparency, then we want truth and transparency. I don't care. I believe in due process. I believe in people have rights under the law, and I believe that people should be investigated and found guilty of their crimes. They should be held accountable. It's that simple.
If I was on the list and somebody set me up with false information, with somebody that lied about who they were, their age, I would just come clean publicly and say, like, yeah, this is what they're.
Today I don't think we have, but I showed one yesterday. Yeah. Oh, Chelsea. I will have that. Yeah. I said if you want, we can request to bring that back. But yeah.
A pink one.
We have a pink one. Okay, Chelsea. We can request that one if it's not sold yet. All right. Anthony, yes, very, very nice. Original dust bag, an original box, and original card. Almost like a full set here for you from 2015. Yeah. But leather, pink leather isn't for you. I see. No worries.
Yeah. It happens. I get it. People don't like it. And we're talking about that topic. My own fault. Welcome back, everybody. Hi, guys. Welcome back. Everybody, we are back. Everybody keep tapping, please. We had 1,000 people in here, and that's what that shit happens, but it is what it is. So everybody come on back in, please. Appreciate you guys. Come on back. Come on back. We had live goal. Such a wild thing, it just happens. I know it's one of these, it's one of these, it wasn't intentional on Dionysus's part. It happens, I get it, but just, you guys can come on back. And then I guess we'll move off of that particular topic, and then we can get into the other item that I wanted to discuss today, which was tariffs, because this is so wild now. TikTok is tripping. Yeah. Yep. It is. I agree. Anyway, to close that loop, there's a list. They just don't want it to release because Trump's name's all over it. Everybody tap and share. Let's fire up that gift goal. Let's fire up the subscriptions. Actually, don't subscribe here, guys. It's complicated on the backup. It's a weird thing. There's a weird glitch. But if you guys would not mind helping out here, don't forget we are crowdfunded. If you're just finding us here on Factstillmatter 2.0, please follow. Hi, we go live every Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to noon on the main. We also have evening events now and then. But again, if you've never seen my face before, welcome. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys being here. Please follow this account. And if you haven't yet before, let's try to build up our follower account on there just in case. I did submit the appeal. We're also live on YouTube as well. Don't forget about that. Thank you for that. Please consider following all my socials, which are Substack, Twitch. Here, we're working on developing more content, and we're still on the lookout for somebody who's willing, who might have some experience helping us coordinate all these various things from a technology perspective. What kind of hardware would you recommend that we have? All those kinds of things. So if you have a skill set in that particular area, or if you know someone who is, please reach out to our mod community. If you haven't yet followed us on Discord or joined our Discord, please consider doing so. Or if you do have experience in that space setting up, I'm good strategically, like I know what I want to do as we expand our social footprint. I just suck technically. So I could use your help with that. By the way, Sam, I should talk to you about, we got this weird notification from YouTube yesterday about some restriction, and I can't appeal it. So we should talk about that. Yeah, well, no fear Steam Deck. Yeah, so that's kind of what we need. So Steam Deck, can you reach out to either Eve and or Sam, and just kind of maybe we can start a Discord conversation to talk about what that would look like? No fear. I'd appreciate that. All right, so let's get back to our topic today. It's unfortunate that there's so few people in here now, because I wanted to touch on potentially what is maybe an alternative to TikTok going forward. There's reporting that this is, I don't know, again, there's not a lot of information on this, but there's reporting that an Oracle-backed entity, thank you, Amy. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Again, guys, we are crowdfunded here, so we any daily donations are much appreciated. So thank you very, very much in advance, and I'll do a better job trying to track that down. Amy says, "Oh, thank you for all the wonderful work and information that you put in." Well, thank you for saying that, Amy. I appreciate you. So there's this potential app that's being introduced by TikTok in concert with Oracle. Not a lot of details yet. It's called M2. All we know is that it's launching in September. So the TikTok team is believed to be developing a fresh version of the app called M2 internally to replace the current one. Although the law requiring TikTok to sell or shut down has been in place since January, the app has only been available in the US for, a day here and there, right? Now the information says a deal that would meet the law's conditions is nearly done. It would include a new separate version, but any final agreement would still need China's approval. Officials there are also dealing with ongoing trade issues involving tariffs in the Trump administration, according to this report from Verge. The report adds that Trump officials are near a deal to sell TikTok to investors who not linked to China. Oracle is expected to be part of the group, while ByteDance would keep a smaller stake to comply with the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversaries Controlled Applications Act. Wall Street Journal said the General Services Administration confirmed that Oracle has made a new cloud deal with the U.S. government. It's said to be the first agreement of its kind, giving a full government-wide discount of 75% off of Oracle's licensed software. Of course it is. So we don't know. We don't really know a lot. It's called M2. Apparently, it's going to be available in the App Store in September. Apparently, this means that the TikTok in its current form will cease to exist in March of next year. Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate you so much. Brooke says they're challenging everybody in the chat to donate $2 towards the goal today. So there you go. All my pay apps are at FactsStillMatter. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Thank you, Brooke, for that. I appreciate that. So we start all over and we lose videos. That's what I don't know, Diesel. So I don't know if this means that does our username and our login information just transfer over? I think about this, the fact that I've been on this for a long time and built an app with built a presence here with 110,000 followers and 1.5 million likes and all kinds of relationships. The thought of starting that from scratch, if that's what we need to do, that's what we need to do. This is a part-time job for me. I love doing it. It's an outlet for me in my life. The complaints that we all have, and many of them justified and rightly so when it comes to TikTok, it also provides an amazing opportunity to connect community. And there's a lot of things we've not been able to do. We would not have been able to do without this. So yeah, if I did it once, I can do it again. Yeah, I agree. Savage, thank you for that. Savage has taken on the challenge. So the challenge has been thrown down by Brooke to say $2. Challenging everybody in the chat to send $2 towards the goal. So I'll check back in for the totals in a little bit. All right, let's shift gears now because of Taco Trump, because he always chickens out. So there's things have applied this morning. He's chickened out on being direct and responsive with the situation in Texas. He has chickened out because if he wanted the Epstein client list to be released, all he would have to do would be to order the Department of Justice to do it. Chickened out on that, and is chickened out on the tariffs once again. Okay? Once again. So I want to go back a little bit and just kind of look at the timeline of the whole tariff bullshit, because I think it helps it kind of level set. So I was thinking about this before. So let's kind of go in order. Thank you, Lindsay. Lindsay's challenge is accepted. We're working. Everybody's been challenged to donate $2. Help us get to our gift goal today. Okay, so let's talk about Trump's approach to tariffs and how it led us to where we are now. And then I'll read you some of the. Actually, before I do that, let me. I just saw this post on True Social. Before I do that, let me do this. Because right now the Department. Thank you. Right now the Department of Justice is under pressure because of the promises that they've made regarding the Epstein list in particular, and the promises broken. Thank you, Christopher. Appreciate you very much. All right, so this is from Mr. Trump 15 hours ago. The FBI, I got to do this. Hold on.
The FBI, under the direction of Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bonino, is back to the basics, locking up criminals and cleaning up America's streets. We have the greatest law enforcement professionals in the world, but politics and corrupt leadership often prevented them from doing their job. That is no longer the case. And now they have been unleashed to do their job, and they are doing just that. Keep it up. Make America safe again. Yeah.
So that's an attempt to try to deflect. That's an attempt to try to remind his voters that don't worry about that. Don't worry about those promises. They are out there locking up brown people. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. They're out there locking up brown people. They got your back. They got your back. So yeah. So thank you also to Jay. Appreciate you, Jay. Appreciate you very much. Also to, hold on, I just had another one come through. You guys are jumping on this. Appreciate you guys very, very much. As we're working towards our, okay, I can do this. Hold on a second. Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. It killed the mojo, but we're here. Can't start my morning without you. I appreciate you guys very, very much. I appreciate that. I'll give you guys an update as to what the status of our main, whether or not we can get our main back, but otherwise we'll be back here tomorrow morning. All right, let's get into the tariff talk a little bit. We lost a lot of energy. I kind of wanted to go through this exercise, but that's okay. So everybody keep tapping and sharing. Don't forget, if you are joining us for the first time, please consider subscribing. Please don't forget we have a gifting goal. It's the hat. Please consider helping us out there. Tapping is clapping. Sharing is caring. Veronica, thank you so very, very much. Veronica's contributing now. All right, this is great, you guys. That's the way to do it. Thank you guys very, very much. Beautiful. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Okay. Let's do the March 1st of 2018. What we're doing is the Trump always chickens out, Taco Trump, because he's afraid of accountability. He's afraid of honesty. He's afraid to embarrass himself in front of his people. By the way, he was just nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Bibi Netanyahu. So, yeah, that's crazy. March 1st of 2018, his first announcement of tariffs, 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum imports. We know of the economic impact that had, right? There's a flash goal. Let's do that. Boom. We know the economic impact that had. Okay. We know how we were heading towards a manufacturing recession, and a lot of it had to do with those particular tariffs, and COVID saved his ass. March 8th of 2018, steel and aluminum tariffs took effect with temporary exemptions for allies, including Canada, Mexico, and the EU. May 31st, 2018, exemptions lifted, tariffs extended to Canada, Mexico, and the EU. And then June 2018 and May 2019, the retaliation rounds erupted, impacting U.S. tariffs on autos and solar panels, aggressive but eventually bilateral truce in May of 2019. Don't forget, a lot of the tariffs that we imposed on China during the first Trump administration caused them to retaliate with soybean purchases, which crippled the farming industry. And then the administration had to bail out farmers because they fucked them to begin with. Second term, February 2025. Okay, here we are now. Declared emergency targeting China over the F drug, slapping 10% tariffs on imports. February 10th, upped the tariffs to 20% on Chinese goods and 25% on steel, aluminum from all countries. Hang on one second. Jennifer, thank you so much. I'll do that reminder in just a second. Up tariffs to 20% on Chinese goods and 25% on steel, aluminum from all countries, ending exemptions. March of 2025, March 4th, extended the tariffs 25% on autos and auto parts, also applied to Canada and Mexico under the USMCA. March 12th, steel and aluminum tariffs doubled to 50%, excluding the UK. April, Liberation Day. April 2nd, signed EO 14257, imposing a 10% universal baseline tariff on nearly all imports starting April 5th. Additional reciprocal tariffs versus deficit countries, those between 25 and 40% of a trade deficit, which, by the way, something wrong with a trade deficit. Let's talk about that separately. That went into effect on April 9th. May of 2025. The 14th, average China tariff dropped from 145% to 51%. May 30th, further steel aluminum expansion, adding auto appliances and semiconductors, under Section 232. And then May 28th to 29th, Court of International Trade struck down key EO-based tariffs under IEEPA as unlawful. The stay on enforcement is pending appeal. July 7th. Issued letters to over a dozen countries, including Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Vietnam, threatening 25 to 40% reciprocal tariffs starting August 1st unless new deals are reached. And that's what we're going to get into right now. July 8th, announcement delayed for 3 weeks, negotiations in progress. So his strong man, I'm great at dealing, I'm great at cutting deals. Thank you, Angela. I'm great at cutting deals. This is his approach to apparently showing the world that he's this tough guy. I'm going to read you a letter. They're very, very similar. The differences has to do with specifics around tariff rates, but the letters themselves are similar. So this is dated yesterday, July 7th, 2025, from the desk of the White House. His Excellency Min Aung Hlaing, Chairman of the State Administrative Council and Commander-in-Chief of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar. Dear Mr. Chairman, it is a great honor for me to send you this letter in it that it demonstrates the strength and commitment of our trading relationship and the fact that the United States of America has agreed to continue working with Myanmar despite having a significant trade deficit with your great country. Okay, let's think about that for just a second in regards to Myanmar. The United States of America, the richest country in global history, in world history, is going to have a trade deficit with so many countries because we're going to buy more from them than they're ever going to buy for us. The example I like to use is Madagascar. Very, very poor nation, but they make the best vanilla in the world, right? So if you go to your kitchen cabinet right now and you find your vanilla extract, look on the back, it's likely from Madagascar. So of course we're going to have a massive trade deficit with Madagascar because we buy a lot of vanilla. So, and they're a poor country. They're not going to buy as much. So we're going to have a trade deficit. So this is part of the lie that's been told to the right, which is why Trump's a coward. Nevertheless, we've decided to move forward with you, but only with more balanced and fair trade, in all caps. Therefore, we invite you to participate in the extraordinary economy of the United States, the #1 market in the world by far. We've had years to discuss our trading relationships with Myanmar and have concluded that we must move away from these long-term and very persistent trade deficits engendered by Myanmar's tariff and non-tariff policies and trade barriers. Our relationship has been, unfortunately, far from reciprocal. Starting on August 1st of 2025, we will charge Myanmar a tariff of only 40% on any and all Burmese products sent into the United States, separate from all sectoral tariffs. Goods transshipped to evade a higher tariff will be subject to that higher tariff. Please understand that the 40% number is far less than what is needed to eliminate the trade deficit disparity that we have with your country. As you are aware, there will be no tariff if Myanmar or companies within your country decide to build or manufacture products within the United States. And in fact, we will do everything possible to get approvals quickly, professionally, and routinely. In other words, in a matter of weeks. By the way, they put a parentheses in that, and they didn't close the parentheses. If for any reason you decide to raise your tariffs, then whatever the number you choose to raise them will be added onto the 40% that we charge you. Please understand that these tariffs are necessary to correct the many years of Myanmar's tariff and non-tariff policies and trade barriers, causing these unsustainable trade deficits against the United States. This deficit is a major threat to our economy and, indeed, our national security. We look forward to working with you as your trading partner for many years to come. If you wish to open your heretofore closed trading markets to the U.S. and eliminate your tariff and non-tariff policies and trade barriers, we will perhaps consider an adjustment to this letter. These tariffs may be modified upward or downward depending on our relationship with your country. You will never be disappointed within the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Like, what? That's the negotiator? That's the deal maker? He's the guy? That's not negotiation. That's just a fucking letter. We're not negotiating. Like, what? What? Other countries are laughing at this shit. They're just like, whatever, fucking the dumbass orange meathead is sending out letters again. When I read that he was going to be sending out like a, thank you, Amanda, as I was reading the fact that he was going to be sending out these letters, this is what came to mind.
Shut up, get down, come dance me down now. We're moving our body to the ABCs. Dance nearby, wow, dance far away, now clap your hands. To the letter of the day, clap, clap. What's the letter, clap, clap. What's the letter, clap, 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 clap. What's the letter? What's the letter? What's the letter? What's the letter? What's the letter?
That's kind of the vibe that I got. Like, your art of the deal, your slick, sophisticated, polished businessman is to send letters. I'm serious. Like that is how they're going to handle this. They're going to send letters. And then it's like a series of pen pals. This is from the desk of the president of any country. Dear President Trump, thank you for taking the time to write such a long-winded and nonsensical letter. We have introduced this to our education system, which is publicly funded because we support higher education. And in the words of our most sophisticated, educated, and highly professional English teachers, we don't know what the fuck you're saying. So again, thank you for your letter, but fuck off. Yours truly, the world. Caroline Levitt, of course, had to chime in on this. This is from the press conference yesterday.
The president decide to have those tariffs not take effect Wednesday as originally scheduled? And then I was also wondering if you could share, obviously we saw the letters the president sent out on Japan and South Korea, but if any other major U.S. trading partners are getting letters today.
Sure, yes, I can confirm. In fact, I have those letters. If you could get me the folder with the letters in them, Liz, they're right in the previous office. I have the signed letters that went out to both South Korea and Japan today. And there will be approximately 12 other countries that will receive notifications and letters directly from the President of the United States. And weeks ago, I stood at this podium and I told all of you that the President was going to create tailor-made trade plans for each and every country on this planet. And that's what this administration continues to be focused on. The President will also sign an executive order today delaying the July 9th deadline to August 1st. So the reciprocal tariff rate or these new rates that will be provided in this correspondence to these foreign leaders will be going out the door within the next month, or deals will be made. And those countries continue to negotiate with the United States. We've seen a lot of positive developments in the right direction, but the administration, the president, and his trade team want to cut the best deals for the American people and the American worker. That's what they're focused on. And in the effort of transparency, these letters will continue to be posted to Truth Social, so you can enjoy them yourself.
You're now delaying the deadline from July 9th to August 1st. Is that an acknowledgement that perhaps the administration found it more difficult to negotiate these trade deals, or whatever happened to 90 deals in 90 days?
No, it's an acknowledgement that this administration is doing what's best for the American worker, and we want the best deals possible for our workers, for our manufacturing base, for our middle class, and they are doing this deliberately and appropriately on behalf of our country's interests. Josh.
If you get a couple more on the tariffs, you said about 12 more letters. There were about 55 or so countries, including the EU as a bloc, that were facing this tariff increase. All of those, to understand you correctly, are now deferred to August 1st, right?
Correct.
And on the 12, what happens with the remaining, whatever it would be, 40 something?
So just 12 today. There will be additional letters in the coming days.
So all of them are going to get a letter at some point?
Correct.
Okay, and can you tell me why he decided to start with South Korea and Japan? Are they annoying him?
It's the president's prerogative, and those are the countries he chose.
And on the sectoral tariffs, it's our understanding that these continue to be a separate track. We're still waiting on a bunch of them.
That's right.
Is there any timing update on when he's going to move on, for instance, semiconductor tariffs and other things that are still in the hopper?
I don't have a timing update, but for where they are in the process, I would defer you to the Department of Commerce.
Should we expect deals finally as well? He announced this Vietnam deal. Are you close on any other countries?
The president and the administration, yes, we are close. But again, the president wants to ensure these are the best deals possible. And I would add just one more thing on trade and tariffs to wrap it up. Look at the extensive work this president has put into cutting these good deals and doing what's right for the American worker. He is literally looking at the map and looking at every country on the planet and seeing where they are ripping off the American people, seeing where they have hollowed out our industrial base, seeing where our jobs have gone to other countries overseas because of their tariff policies, and he's trying to correct that. So this is decades of bad trade policy that has led to a deficit that is ravaging our country, that is ravaging our middle class, and the president is taking a very deliberate approach to correcting this wrong of many decades, of many past presidents. And so I think he should be commended for the time and the effort that he is putting into this. And the fact that he has announced a framework with China, a trade deal with the United Kingdom, a trade deal with Vietnam, and many others to come in just a matter of 6 months is truly historic, and it's a testament to this president and his trade team who are working around the clock to get this done.
Okay, so the practical problem with what we just listened to is, how does any business prepare? Seriously, how does any business prepare for something like this? Remember the exercise we went through yesterday where we know that small businesses that are less than 500, and then when you could dissect it even further, less than 100, account for the overwhelming majority of jobs created and provide more to the GDP. So how the fuck do small businesses plan? How does anybody plan? Because no one is going to know where this lands. And again, because his voters aren't bright enough to understand that, what is going to happen come holiday time? Like, this is not a plan. This is just words. Thank you, Michelle. This is just words. It makes no sense whatsoever. You're just going to send out letters? And there are people that support his economic policies that are going to cheer now for letters? Do you see when we say, I think this is a great time to talk about this. How we talk about how MAGA voters in particular, because there are conservative Republicans out there that vote for economic policies who believe in our trade deficits. And now they're all scratching their head like, what the fuck is this? But MAGA voters think a strongly worded letter from the White House, even though Trump didn't do anything with it, and I guarantee they were signed by the auto pen, no doubt about it, they're going to think that this is Trump. See, fucking nobody writes a letter like Trump. See that? He even put tariff in all caps. Took me a long time to read it because I don't understand 95% of the words that are in there, but nobody writes a letter like Trump does. Every one of them countries now got that letter, and that letter's going to sit in their desk. Yeah, what are they going to do with the letter? What's going to happen? Oh, I don't know. They got the letter, though. That letter just sits there. That letter is going to tell them exactly what they're supposed to do. Okay, but what are they supposed to do? Like, they got the letter. Now what do they do? Well, he told them in the letter, you're going to get this. And if you don't do that, you're going to get this. No, I get that. Again, he got the letter. All these countries, like, dear Mr. Japan, like he said. Yeah, that was funny. Dear Mr. Japan, here's your letter. I'm going to explain a bunch of stuff. It's not going to make any sense. But what do they do now? Like, are they supposed to do something? Yeah, they're going to put their tariff in place, and then they're not. And then they're going to reciprocate the tariff with the thing, and then the stuff's going to come in, and they're going to have to pay 9,000% more for stuff. What? What? Isn't that what it feels like? I mean, it's like, what? It's, again, these are the kinds of things here that I'm so desperate for more education. Is just, it's impossible to be able to, for a business to be able to plan. How do you plan? How do you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You could be an importer. You could buy products from Myanmar, and you have no idea how the fuck they're going to respond. How much inventory do you have? How much inventory do you need? How much staff do you need to hire? Do you need to cut staff? What about people who operate businesses where the only source of the product that they can get it to operate is from countries like Myanmar or South Korea or wherever? How the fuck do people run their business? This is the stuff that people just don't think about enough. And it's, how do you do it? Hey, Fish. How you doing, buddy?
Hey. Did you watch, and are you going to touch on the dinner press conference I had last night? Because he literally says, when he's getting asked, when he's got the press conference with Bibi, he said, we did 90 deals in 90 days. That's done. And it's a frustration. And he's totally adamant too.
Did you put it in the Discord?
I'll find it for you. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, later.
You the man. I appreciate you.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Again, how do we navigate through this? Like, I don't understand where. What's this? Okay. lot of activity in the chat today, guys. My apologies, trying to keep the ship afloat, so to speak. I don't know. You should be thinking him only reason you have you should be thinking Unforgiven 420. You should be thinking him only reason you have a platform. No, I have a platform because I believe in the quality of education and information. You can sit there and misspell words and then be victim of disinformation, propaganda, and lies. But, maybe come back here. We have really intense conversations daily about important topics, but maybe that's just me. Red G, how are you today?
I'm all right. I just wanted to give you a super simple solution. Don't want to say it too fast, but you just buy American products.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a second.
So much uncertainty with what's going on internationally.
Okay, let's talk about it. So do you think everything that we as Americans consume, do you think everything required to make those products are available here?
If they're not, you need to figure out a way to make them here. That's your job.
So you just make vanilla here?
That's your job.
So you just make vanilla here?
That's your job. If your job is to make vanilla and you need to make vanilla for whatever it is, you're either gonna find
and you can't. And what about coffee?
You're either gonna find a substitute or make it here. Very simple stuff. I mean,
what about coffee, Red? What about coffee?
Yes, make it here.
How do you make coffee?
Figure it out. If you can make everything else, why is it impossible to make coffee?
Because you have to grow it, my guy.
Okay, so grow it.
Okay, you just think we can grow coffee anywhere?
It's 2025, dude.
Dude, do you think we can just grow coffee anywhere?
Yes, you can.
Where do you think we can grow coffee in Wisconsin?
Yes.
You think we can grow? You do? How do we grow coffee in Wisconsin?
The same way that they grow marijuana in Michigan and Minnesota.
Really? So you think American?
I know for a fact you can do it. Yes.
You know what I know for a fact?
What?
You're stupid. I worked in the coffee industry for 15 years. Okay. I did what's referred to as origin trips. I went to locations where they grow from a fair trade perspective. Coffee goes between the tropics lines, between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Coffee is very, very sensitive to its environment. It can only grow in certain places in the world. The only place in America that we have the climate and the geography specific enough to grow coffee is Hawaii. That's the only place you can grow it. That's it. We have to import it. And in fact, our importing of coffee into our country is the lifeblood of many communities. That's what fair trade is. No, it's not. Did you just say that? There you go. You can do it. You can do what? Grow coffee in Wisconsin? You guys don't know what you're talking about. First of all, 420 is a bush. Underneath lights will grow anywhere. Coffee requires climate. It requires geography. It grows on hillsides. Again, that's either trolling or legitimate stupidity. Like, it's just what an insane take that is. I know the answer. I got it figured out. We'll just manufacture coffee. We'll build a new plant. We'll manufacture it. We'll bring those jobs back to America. Well, coffee is a natural resource. It grows on bushes with beans. Actually, it's a cherry. It's a fruit. It's not even a bean. It's a fruit. And inside the fruit, the cherry fruit, is the coffee bean. And then that gets turned into coffee. And it requires a particular climate. It's got to be moist, but not too moist. It's got to be arid, but not too arid. And it grows up on hillsides. Well, that don't matter. We're America. We can figure it out. We'll just figure it out. The fuck? No, Red, you're dumb. You can't come back. We don't have time for dumb. What the fuck? like, And then there's minerals that literally don't exist here. Okay, harassment, fine, whatever. Guys, tap like crazy. He got all sensitive. Listen, if we for some reason if we get taken down again today, I don't know where things sit with our I don't know about the appeal yet. Anyway, all right, I got this from Fish Trucker. Thank you. This is the clip from last night. This was Bibi and Trump talking about the trade deals. But I just want to go back to this particular point. Sure, we can easily make that claim. We can. Why don't we just make everything here? We can't. People understand that? We literally can't. We have to import things, especially rare earth in particular. We can't manufacture things here for two reasons. One, we don't have the manufacturing infrastructure, and we never will again because we shouldn't. That's what global trade. No, you're wrong again. My God. You know what I've noticed? This is on the backup because we don't have as many people blocked on the backup. It's interesting. We spend time over here on the other side of the fact streets, so to speak. Let me play this. This is from Fish Trucker, our buddy. Before I play that, let me just real quick check a couple things here. I think I'm caught up on everybody. Oh, maybe not. Jennifer, thank you so much. I love $11.64. That makes me have to do math. I'm just going to round it down and call it 70. I'm sorry, 60. Thank you. Appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for all the hard work. You're welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for saying that. Oh, 60 bucks away, guys. That'd be awesome. So let me get this playing again here. Hang on one second. I might need another link. That link did not seem to work, Fish. Hang on one sec. Here we go.
Tariffs. What happened to 90 trade deals in 90 days?
We've spoken to everybody. We know everything. It's all done. I told you, we'll make some deals, but for the most part, we're going to send a letter. We're going to say, welcome to the United States. If you'd like to participate in the greatest, most successful country ever. I mean, we're doing better than ever. We have, I don't think, and you're going to see these numbers soon. We've never had numbers like this. We've never had investment like this. We have more than 90. We're going to have much more than 90, but most of those are going to be sent a letter. This is exactly what I said. Now, we've made a deal with United Kingdom. We've made a deal with China. We've made a deal. We're close to making a deal with India.
Close.
Others we met with, and we don't think we're going to be able to make a deal, so we just send them a letter. If you want to play ball, you have to. This is what you have to pay. So, as far as I'm concerned, we're done.
What? What the fuck was that? What? Hold on.
90 days.
We've spoken to everybody. We know everything. It's all done. I told you, we'll make some deals, but for the most part, we're going to send a letter. We're going to say, welcome to the United States. If you'd like to participate in the greatest, most successful country ever. I mean, we're doing better than ever. We have, I don't think, and you're going to see these numbers soon. We've never had numbers like this. We've never had investment like this. We have more than 90. We're going to have much more than 90, but most of those are going to be sent a letter. This is exactly what I said. Now, we've made a deal with United Kingdom. We've made a deal with China. We've made a deal. We're close to making a deal with India. Others we met with, and we don't think we're going to be able to make a deal, so we just send them a letter. If you want to play ball, you have to. This is what you have to pay. So, as far as I'm concerned, we're done.
Okay, so what I'm going to tell you, this is not a flex in any way, but I've negotiated multi-million-dollar contracts. I've sat across the table from representatives of Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, and I've negotiated, multi-million-dollar deals. I've traveled internationally, and I've sat across the table from executives in South Korea, and I've negotiated domestic, participation in the United States economy, wanting to launch businesses in the U.S., and I've negotiated those deals. Contract negotiation is not, here's a letter, I'm going to dictate to you the terms. Now, you could say, sure, these are my terms, take it or leave it. That's not negotiation. That is not negotiating trade deals on behalf of the American public. That is just you attempting to flex and showing your... Okay, what? Grumpy Vet, you're awfully angry. You're awfully angry. I don't know about you, but I've had a life prior to this that was pretty successful. But now I'm at a point in my life where I want to make sure I'm providing education for people like you who clearly need it. Grumpy Vet. Anyway, it's wild over here. Mods, you guys watching this? This is crazy. Anyway, that's not negotiation. You're not doing anything other than sending fucking letters. We don't need to negotiate. We're in charge, sir. Real American News. What? You don't need to negotiate? So other countries can say, fine, we don't take it. We'll get our business elsewhere. Other countries are laughing. You realize that. The global trade market has already shifted. Countries are realizing they cannot depend on the United States anymore. So the funny thing about this is what you guys fail to realize, and our friend Red earlier failed to realize this as well. These letters are to negotiate trade terms. It's not to say, unless you agree to these terms, I'm going to bring all that manufacturing production back to the United States. That never happens. That's a lie that was told. But instead, we're just going to jack up the price, and by the way, the American consumer pays for it. What? Oh my God. Wow. And this kind of tracks with the sound that I found before about the Trump tax policy. So again, just a little bit more word salad for you.
Taxes, Mr. President, could you please explain how taxes would go up by 68% if the bill isn't passed? Where does that number come from?
Well, it comes from the fact that you have automatically the Trump cuts, which were the biggest cuts that we've ever had. Now, these cuts are even bigger, but from the last administration, we had the Trump cuts. It was a 5-year deal, and it comes due. When you add that to the cuts that you already have and other things, it amounts, according to what they tell me, about 68%. That would mean you'd have a tax, so that that the tax cuts that they got, the biggest tax cuts in our history, would immediately go up to that level. And that alone is a big chunk of the 68%. And then you have the other taxes that would accumulate. And they say that you'd have about a 68% tax increase.
Sir, you said...
Hold on. Wait.
Told us that taxes, Mr. President, could you please explain...
Okay. What? Was that an example of Trump playing 4D chess? Was that an example? Because I'm confused. First of all, no one seems to know where that 68% is coming from. If this one big ugly bill that's going to strip kids of food and kick millions of Americans off of healthcare and close rural hospitals, and then and give more money to the Pentagon and give more money to DHS, both agencies that have failed audits and run at a 15% fraud rate. Meanwhile, cutting funding from Medicaid, Medicare, a group that, by the way, has less than a 5% fraud rate, but waste, fraud, and abuse. Okay. Just want to make sure I was tracking that information. I don't even know what to say about that level of just bullshit. Okay, a couple more things I want to get to today. And since we seem to keep glitching out here, I'm not sure how much longer we're going to be able to stay up. But I wanted to read this to you guys because this is kind of well, actually, let me play this. Our friend Good Trouble, he gets some interesting people that respond to comments on his page. But I think this is really wild, and this is kind of where we are now in this space that we live in, because we reference historical parallels all the time. When we talk about how history doesn't always repeat itself, but it rhymes. What was that say? I told you were moving to Canada. I told you we're moving to Canada. Okay. No, I'm not married, but I'm spoken for. TJ and Paul, who join us on the other account, we're gonna have a throuple wedding at some point. You can come if you'd like, but we have to get you fitted. So be sure that you send in your sizes as soon as possible. So this is the world we live in now, right? And I want to play this. I'll be careful how we interpret the language, but here you go.
We all grew up listening to the speeches that
H-men gave to the German people and troops. Couldn't understand what they were saying, but boy, they sounded menacing. I mean, it just sounds evil. Well, now they've got AI that translated it into English. It talks about Christian values and moral integrity and how valuable women are to a society. Damn, it's not quite as bad as I thought it was. And then it talks about the media being so corrupt. It played a big part in the Germans having their culture stolen from them. Damn, these are things we worry about. And, I can't help but think we might have been on the damn wrong side of history. You hear...
I'm sorry, one more time. Sorry.
We all grew up listening to the speeches that H-men gave to the German people and troops. Couldn't understand what they were saying, but boy, they sounded menacing. I mean, it just sounds evil. Well, now they've got AI that translated it into English. It talks about Christian values and moral integrity and how valuable women are to a society. Damn, it's not quite as bad as I thought it was. And then it talks about the media being so corrupt. It played a big part in the Germans having their culture stolen from them. Damn, these are things we worry about. And, I can't help but think we might have been on the damn wrong side of history. You hear...
Gosh, there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, it's just German. It's not like it's some ancient language where only two people on Earth can translate it. We've always known what it has said. Oh, thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. People on the right, like some of our visitors in the chat today over here, by the way, seem to think that because Schmittler referenced Christianity and because they claim to be Christians, that maybe we weren't on the wrong side after all. Interesting. I don't know what it is that you people are missing, but yeah, Real American News, you're just wrong about everything today, friend. You're wrong about everything. It does cut the budget. It does, and you don't care about that, which is obvious because you probably align with what that person thinks too. So, yeah, it's a pretty wild concept, but we'll see if we can have this conversation. Okay, so good morning.
Good morning.
So you made a claim that in the big, bold, beautiful bill that the budget for Medicaid was not cut. Is that your claim?
Yeah, so the funding actually was not cut by what you're claiming. That's just going to be the amount that's estimated to be removed from people that are not supposed to or do not no longer qualify for these programs. It didn't actually cut it, and it didn't actually in the bill cut the budget by that.
That's not true. So I'd like you to cite your source for that, because what you're saying is completely wrong.
The source would be the big beautiful bill on congress.gov. It'd be about, I think, 13th or 14th page. I can't remember.
What does it say?
It does not cut the actual budget. It adds provisions, and that's the estimated amount of savings for people that do not qualify, such as people that are working able bodies between the ages of 18 and 64, illegal aliens.
Okay, so when we have estimates from the CBO that 13.7 million Americans will become uninsured, how does that work?
That works because we added the same provisions that Bill Clinton did in 1998, requiring work provisions, requiring you to.
That's wrong too. So let's
definitely not wrong.
It is wrong. Let's try to have a logical conversation. Let's break this down. Okay. So hold on a second. You made a lot. Hold on a second.
Logic doesn't work with biasm.
Hold on. You made a lot of claims, and generally I ask people to cite their source. You can't just say it's in the one big beautiful bill. You should.
Would you agree though that logic doesn't work if you're biased?
In your case, yeah, you are biased. So yeah, logic does not work in your case.
Okay.
All right. I'm providing data, and that's
you're not a biased Democrat liberal on TikTok that keeps getting their account banned because you keep spewing lies.
I don't
get my account. That's not what happens.
No, it's not actually. No, are you saying you're not biased, sir?
No, I'm saying that I can be biased.
Everybody can be biased.
Can you?
Everybody has bias. Absolutely.
A moment ago, you said you were not.
I'm not biased when it comes to this. I'm providing you the data.
All right, let's move forward.
So I just want to level set on something. First of all, it's my live, and I'll decide when we move forward. Would you rather win an argument or have the actual factual information?
Yeah, the factual information would be the black and white writing in the actual.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you. Try to listen to respond, not to react.
Yeah,
listen to hear.
I am listening
Hold on.
to you. The facts are in
my
the
guy.
bill, not
my
you.
guy. Listen. No, listen. Okay. What I'm asking you is, would you rather be correct or to win an argument?
I would rather be factually correct.
Okay. So then we know from the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, that this bill is going to add $3.9 trillion to the deficit. Not my opinion. That's from the CBO. Do you not believe that, or do you believe that to be true?
Are you talking about the cost of the spending, like of the big beautiful bill? Yeah, of course they're spending. Yeah.
So it's gonna add $3.9 trillion.
What is the typical budget in the last three administrations?
Again, the argument from this is where it's difficult. I'm trying to get you to answer questions.
Is that not a typical? Yes, it's going to add that much, and then we're going to make cuts as well. Did you minus out the cuts?
That is after the cuts. Okay, that's what it's going to add to the deficit, $3.9 trillion.
Okay, great. Move forward.
So you're okay with that?
Yeah.
You're okay with adding to the deficit when we had a.
I'm okay with adding $3.9 trillion to the deficit when it comes to this bill, because I believe it is going to be more effective and better for our country than the last bill that Joe Biden passed, which added $4 trillion to the deficit. Did it not?
What bill?
How many trillions did the Biden administration add to the deficit?
One time. Hold on. Well, so is deficit spending important to you?
I'm asking you a question. How the previous president?
Mm-hmm.
How much did he spend and add to the deficit?
Half as much as Trump did.
The first round or the second? What are you referring to?
So
he spent half of 3.9. Is that what you're claiming?
You're not making any sense, friend. I'm gonna show you. Okay, I'm gonna show you.
3.9 is what you said that this bill will cost us and add us to the deficit. I'm asking you. What did Joe Biden, and you're claiming that it's half of 3.9 is Joe Biden added to the deficit.
That's not what I said. You have to listen. So you're not listening right now. Just listen. Listen.
Am I wrong?
You are wrong. Joe Biden reduced the deficit, friend. Barack Obama reduced the deficit by 53%. Joe Biden reduced it by 50%. This is all factual information. This is all data. This is all available for free. This is not my opinion. This is all available for free. Okay? It's all available. So the issue specifically that you're commenting on is that you're claiming that people were not going to lose their health insurance. 13.7 million seems to be the consensus between all the people that have researched this. There's a large group of people that are uninsured due to Medicaid work requirements and other changes. Now, there are people on Medicaid who do work. Great. You understand that, right?
Yeah, no, I'm very happy that the people that do not qualify are getting it removed.
That's not what I asked. Do you understand? That's not what I asked. You understand that there are people on Medicaid that do work.
Okay, and then they will qualify if they submit that work. That's all they have to do.
That is not how the process works, friend. I'll give you a real-time example. I'll tell you why I know that this is going to be, that money's being, because Lisa Murkowski, the senator from Alaska, requested that Alaska be excluded from the cuts so that her state would not have to go through budget cuts as it relates to Medicaid. Now, why would she do that unless she knew for a fact that, yes, cuts to Medicaid were going to happen? Why would she say that?
Of course the cuts are going to happen, but they didn't.
You said earlier they're not cutting Medicaid. You said that earlier.
You're beating around the bush, and you know exactly what I'm saying. Real American News.
So no, you said. I'm sorry, friend. I'm sorry. Sorry. Hold on. You said that they were not cutting Medicaid. Now you're saying that they are. They are not
cutting the funding from Medicaid.
Yes, they are.
They are adding provisions that is going to cause people to lose their Medicaid that do not qualify originally. When you have 18 to 65-year-old working abled men on Medicaid that are not working, they should be removed. That does happen. You're lying if you say it does not happen. You're only referring to the rare instance of somebody being a good working person and having Medicaid. They abuse it too. There are people that abuse social programs and stay on them for years instead of using them to help themselves.
So then you're claiming fraud?
Yes.
Okay, what's the fraud rate? What's the fraud rate for Medicaid?
What is the fraud? You just said it earlier. Even if it's 5% or less, I don't care. They're gonna get ripped off. How many people are on Medicaid?
My guy, hold on a second.
Numbers and percentages. How many people are on Medicaid and how many people are getting removed?
Hold on 1 second.
You like percentages?
Hold on a second. Do you
5%?
Are you supportive of? Do you believe that programs who have high levels of waste, fraud, and abuse should have their budgets cut?
If it has to do with federal tax-funded programs, yeah.
Cool, like the military and the Department of Homeland Security, both, by the way, march towards 15% fraud rate. So should we cut their budgets?
I think they should definitely be investigated for sure.
They haven't passed
they need to pass an audit.
They got a raise. But they got a raise.
Right, our military is a touchy subject. I mean, we do need to protect ourselves.
We do. Okay,
but at the end of the day, I do believe that it should be audited. Your question was, do I believe it should be audited?
So to you,
the answer is yes.
No, that's not the question. So to you, the issue is not
and cut if there's waste, fraud, and abuse. Yes,
there is.
Okay, cool. So cut it.
So why? But they got a raise.
Waste, fraud, and abuse. You see where I'm going with this?
But they got a raise. But they got a raise.
Okay, they got a raise.
So we're gonna
you
take people
my personal opinion.
We're gonna you don't care about waste, fraud, and abuse.
Oh, I do.
No, you don't, because if
Am
you cared about waste, fraud,
voting on these bills.
Well, once again, you don't care about
waste, fraud, and abuse. Provisions to the big beautiful bill, or am I saying every line item is absolute?
So this is from the big bold beautiful bill that you talked about. So this is cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and SNAP. Total Medicaid cuts in the House bill was $800 billion over 10 years, and the Senate bill was $930 billion. Up to 11 to 12 million Americans. The estimate is between 12 and 14 million, so we've narrowed it down to 13.7 million Americans could lose Medicaid and marketplace coverage by 2034, according to the CBO. New restrictions and include work requirements for able-bodied adults ages 19 to 64, no dependents, including parents of children over 14 in the Senate version. Mm-hmm. Eligibility redetermination increase from once per year to twice annually. Home equity cap disqualifies households with home equity over $1 million from Medicaid with inflation fixed eligibility levels. Provider tax limits. Hold on, I'm not done. Provider tax limits. Senate version to restrict states' abilities to raise provider taxes, reducing state matching revenue. That's a big point, and I'll get to that in just a second. Barriers for specific services. Prohibits Medicaid funding for gender-affirming care, abortion providers, and undocumented immigrants. We already know. Hold on, I'm not done. We already know that undocumented immigrants are not eligible for Medicaid. Now, there are certain states that provide provisions for pregnant women and children, and that's it. Specifically, though, the part of this big, bold, beautiful bill that I think you've bought into is that they want states to take the burden. They don't want Medicaid funding. Sadly, though, the states that are the poorest, the states that get the most in federal tax dollars, are red states. So help me square this.
I understand your point. This is the talking point.
Wait a minute. Let me ask the question. How do we square this? If the states now are and in 1 second, let me ask the question. If states now that are expected to pick up the tab to provide state coverage, states' rights, they can't do it now, how then do they ensure people in their state get coverage, even if in your world, even if every able-bodied person was out there working? How do they provide health care?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I could, you didn't add the provision as well that they are going to force Medicaid to only, or hospitals, to charge patients that have Medicaid the same amount that they would a private or cash paying person. And we know that a doctor in a hospital will typically charge a Medicaid recipient 65% higher because they know that the feds, they know government will pay. Basically, I mean, everybody knows that.
No, so they don't know that. No.
Okay, so time out.
Right past my issue.
I'm responding.
My guy, it's my live. It's my live. I'm not going to waste my time. Answer my question.
I'm responding.
Answer my question.
Answer my question. Again, you didn't touch on that provision and the second provision.
Answer my question. How do states that are already
$550 billion that they set to the side that you did not fucking mention for rural hospitals?
I'm not done.
$50 billion.
How many rural hospitals? I'm not done.
Why didn't you
haven't answered my question. Because I'm not done. You haven't answered my question. How then, in your perfect world, how then, if the impetus is then put on states, and states that are already upside down in their budgets need federal dollars to supplement their own budgets because they're so poorly mismanaged. In your world, even if every person who's on Medicaid now, everyone proves their work, they're out there doing their thing, they're providing it, they're filling in all the boxes, they're filling out all the paperwork. How do they get insurance coverage?
What do you mean? They get it through? They could get insurance coverage through Medicaid.
How?
If you're working and you still qualify, income.
From where? From what budget?
What are you saying? They're not cutting Medicaid. The federal.
Yes, they are.
They're adding provisions that are going to require people actually follow through on paperwork. That's all you're saying. That's the only thing.
My God,
you're the only one that I debated today that is trying to actually make the point that they're cutting it from actual states, that they're not just making it harder. You know that they're just making it a little harder, that you have to follow through instead of once a year, you have to follow through twice a year. If they're rural hospitals that are
I really want to try to help you out here.
And guess what?
Again, I really want
or break anybody's heart.
You're just wrong. It's not about being mean here.
Already upside down. If these hospitals are already upside down, it is not on the federal government to fucking make their management work. They got to shut down. Sorry. I'm glad you said that. So those rural hospitals are upside down on their budgets. And you know what? Sadly, in most of those states, the reason that a lot of those rural hospitals are upside down is because Republican policies have not invested in public health. Most of those hospitals, let me finish. I'm sorry, I don't know how old you are. How old are you, by the way? 30 years old.
Okay, so I've been paying attention to this stuff a lot longer than you, my friend. This is an opportunity to try to learn something, okay? I'm hoping you just can be sincere. Can you stop for just a second? Just try to learn something. Just try to learn something, okay? The reason that a lot of these rural hospitals are going to close is because of Medicaid cuts. Medicaid is what pays the bills in a lot of these rural hospitals. So without access to federal... I'm not done.
That's why. You have to.
You got to let me finish, my guy. I don't want to mute you. Thank you, Sam. I don't want to have to mute you, but you got to let me finish the point, okay? The reason that a lot of these rural hospitals are going, I just need you to stop talking, okay? I'm trying to help you out.
You interrupt me every time I talk, but okay, I'll go on mute.
Go on mute. Perfect. Good boy. Hospitals require Medicaid funding in many, many cases to exist. We know that there are cuts to Medicaid. It's in the bill. You reference it yourself. We know that it exists. We know for a variety of reasons, because of the text of the bill, because of the summaries connected to the bill. We know what Lisa Murkowski's ask was. We know that that's real. Now, hold on. I know you don't want to think that is true. And then the $50 billion was just, hey, we're funding rural hospitals. But meanwhile, $880 billion is being cut. 13.7 million people are in jeopardy of losing their health care because of this. Now, the way I look at it, you may disagree, the way I look at it is, if one person who is eligible for health care in our country, if they have their rights and their access to health care legislated away, that is one too many people. There are people in our country who do work 2 jobs or more and are on Medicaid to pay the bills. Should they lose their health benefits?
They're not going to. They qualify.
They will. In many cases, they will. Yes.
How?
Yes, they will.
If they continue to work and they continue to implement the paperwork they need, how are they going to lose it?
Do you understand how, first of all, why would you have to add a biannual check of your credentials? And do you already know that there's already work requirements?
I think it should be once a month.
In your opinion. Friend, I don't think you understand this. I'm going to bring up Misty, because Misty's a friend of mine, and this is more in her area.
You said 13 million people,
hold on.
though? You said
13.7 million.
How many people are on Medicaid and social programs in total?
I think it's going to vary. That number fluctuates.
Well, how many? Average. Would you say on average how many people are on it?
There are estimates between 25 and 40 million Americans, but it varies.
40 million.
There are estimates between 25 and 40 million. Correct.
Okay, so
and again, it's going to vary. It's going to hold on a second, my guy. Hold on a second. I think there are things that you just don't know. And hi, Missy, we're gonna be gentle with our friend here. We're gonna try to help him educate. What I don't think you're aware of is that there are already a significant investigation into people. Medicaid fraud is something that is investigated when it's less than 5%. You know, by the way, the overwhelming majority of fraud that exists in Medicaid is internal. It's not on the recipient side. It's administrative errors, clerical errors. It's not done by the recipients. So we've got to stop. Hold on. We've got to stop blaming people because people are not taking advantage of the system. Now, fraud exists everywhere. But if this argument is waste, fraud, and abuse, then there's no way the Department of Defense or Department of Homeland Security should have gotten massive increases in their budget, considering they run at like a 15% fraud rate. Misty, thank you for being here. Maybe you can help our friend.
Okay. First, sir, you've got to be an active listener. And an active listener listens. They don't interrupt. They don't jump in. They actually listen to learn. That's what an active listener is. Now, according to the Medicaid cuts, the dependent level, the dependent age has lowered from 18 to 9. So that is talking about children who are 10
What part of the
and
bill is
up.
that?
Excuse me.
Let her finish.
Again, I just told you, active listener.
Let her finish. Let her finish.
I just told you, be an active listener. That
Okay, but I'm in
means
class, guys.
you don't want to learn anything, do you?
You don't want to learn. So if
No, I'm
you don't
just
want to
asking
learn.
you what page that's on because I'm trying to.
Let
trying to
her
follow
finish.
along.
Let
when you're
her
teaching somebody,
finish. My
I'm trying
God,
to follow
stop
along.
talking. Dude, stop talking.
I'm not just
Let
gonna listen
her
live.
finish. Let her finish. If you can't, just leave. Okay? It's really simple. We're trying to educate you here because there's a lot of information that you just don't have correct. You're just wrong about stuff. And we're trying to educate you. So
I'm the
just
only one that can
listen.
reference the bill itself, though. I don't understand you guys.
I just did that. But you didn't want to listen. So stop talking. Don't talk. Listen. Thank you. Go ahead, Misty.
Okay. So that again means that children that are 10 and up could lose their Medicaid, which means children with like autism or very serious health needs could lose their Medicaid. The other part of that is Steve brought up a really good thing. He said something about people working 2 jobs. I am one of those people that work 2 jobs. And I know a lot of other people that work 2 jobs. And you can look that up. The income level that we make working 2 jobs will not qualify us for Medicaid. So if the jobs that we work don't provide health insurance, the only way we can get health insurance is by quitting one of those jobs, which means, again, that we're going to be having a hard time paying our rent, paying our utilities, paying car notes, things like that. And medications are expensive.
Yeah, so there are provisions for people that have disabled children. They qualify, pregnant women. So the autism thing, I mean, again, you would qualify because of the provisions actually inside of the bill. Also,
Misty, I'm going to kick you real quick because I'm going to bring up Crow because this is his sweet spot. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, and
so
then
real,
she referred to the dependent age being from 7 to 18 on Medicaid. That actually is completely false. I just
hang tight. So hang tight. So hang tight.
I was just responding to her. Every time I do this, you guys want to step over my
no, because you're spreading misinformation, and I'm not going to let you do that.
I'm sorry that I'm correcting your.
You're spreading misinformation, friend. I'm not going to let you do that. We are trying to educate you here. I brought somebody up.
You want me to post the link? Hold on, I'll post it in here. I'll post it in your chat. I don't care about your link. So they can do it.
My God. I brought up an expert. So the person you're about to speak to works in this space. This is what he does for a living. Okay? So if you want to learn, then try to learn. I'm sorry?
He's a member of Congress?
No, he's on the social services side. Who's the work he does is
oh, well, I would understand him being upset that those are getting cut.
Don't be a dick. Crow.
I would understand.
Want to try to educate our friend here?
If my department was getting cut, I'd be a little upset too.
Hey, my department's not being cut. I'm employed by the state. I'm employed by the state, not the Fed, so I'm not being cut. Why would I be upset? I'm not being cut.
I mean, that's your field of work, I guess. So I would be upset.
Okay,
I was upset when Biden
Real American
canceled
News,
the pipeline on
bro. The last chance I'm going to get. Are you either shut up and learn or leave?
10,000 jobs were lost day one of Biden.
Shut up and learn or leave.
Told those guys to find a job.
Shut up and learn or leave.
Family.
Concerns for my clients, not my job. I have a master's in marketing. Let's say Pennsylvania closed the Department of Health and Human Services tomorrow. I just go back to a 6-figure job.
Okay, so Ahmad, can you keep him on mute, please? So, Crow, can you please help our friend? I normally would never carry anybody this disingenuous, but I'm hoping that this is an opportunity for him, and he'll be the victim here in regards to us trying to educate. So, anybody else who believes what real American believes, please listen. That's all I'm asking. So, Crow, can you please help our friend here?
Sure. So the larger concern, when you look at all of the policy changes, is this is very distinctly an attack on single parents. And I say this because if the work requirement was the important part, they wouldn't exclude one parent.
He left.
In a two-parent household. So, yes, the ABOD age is 14 under the bill, not 7. They adjusted it. It was a compromise. I don't agree with the compromise. It should still be 18 because if they're dependent on your taxes, they should be dependent on your social programs as well. But ultimately, when you look at all of the changes together, it really is just promoting the nuclear family again. Because in a single-parent household, that parent has a work requirement, but in a two-parent household, only one parent carries it, which means they're not really concerned about the work. They're concerned about you being married.
Correct. So, again, he ran.
For people that are trying to find like raw numbers on this, each state has been putting out statements on what projected loss is. I know Governor Shapiro just released a statement last Thursday on the proposed numbers. It's something like 119,000 Pennsylvanians losing Medicaid and 67,000 Pennsylvanians losing SNAP. So like it's going to be on a state-by-state basis, and the reason you're going to get those numbers on a state-by-state basis is because the stated goal of the bill is to get states to absorb some of those costs. So you won't have the numbers on losses until each state goes through the big, beautiful bill, assesses what costs they can eat, and then comes up with a number.
Correct. Which is a whole state. That's the entire point that I was trying to get to with him, to say, okay, these people that are on Medicaid now in states that are upside down on their budgets, even if they abide by every one of these changes, which to your point is exactly right, going after single families, single parents, etc. If there's
I'd point out that the focus on married families is also a cultural attack, because there are plenty of households that are multi-generational households or or communal households that everybody in there is going to have a work requirement unless they're married, and then only one parent has the work requirement.
That's exactly right. So states that are upside down on their budgets, and we went through this exercise yesterday, blue states generate the wealth and prosperity of our nation, contribute considerably much more to the GDP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Under the current conditions, if those states now are relying on federal dollars for Medicaid to supplement their budgets because they can't afford to do it now, how are they going to provide health care for their citizens, even if they abide by every single one of these ridiculous rules that are put into place? The answer is they aren't, which is why people are going to lose their health care.
I need to be very clear as to why you're losing your health care. You're losing your health care due to a very specific rule in the budget that says if they want to increase the budget in one place, it must come from another place, and Medicare and SNAP are on the list of programs they can touch. You're losing your health care and your SNAP so that they could make ICE have a larger budget than the Marine Corps.
Exactly. It's not that hard to figure out. I mean, again, this is unfortunate. Almost the worst type of people to speak to. I don't think that previous caller was dumb. I just think that they're woefully misinformed. And this is the danger. This is what happens when you don't spend the time looking at everything that's necessary. I don't care. It's not about winning a debate for me. I don't give a shit. I want to have information in the hands that is accurate. So I have people like Crow.
Let me calm some fears. Let's talk about it for a second before I go so Stephen get to the next guest. Let's talk about ABOD and what it means. It's able-bodied adults without dependents. So dependents would be that 14 and under. under the new bill, because apparently when you're 15, you're no longer a dependent for social programs, which is a whole other conversation. And able-bodied is the important part. So a lot of people are like, I have X disability. As somebody that processes and administers those programs, what I'm going to need you to do is two things. One, get actual documentation from your doctor. I don't need something from Social Security Administration. I mean, Social Security Administration is the golden ticket, because we just accept Social Security disability as you're disabled and not able-bodied. But if you don't have Social Security disability, we need documentation from your doctor that says this person cannot work due to X reason. That's all. Just get something from your doctor. And if you're like, well, with them reducing income, how do I get it? Life-saving medications and treatment are very important to document as well. Because let's say you're like $50 over for Medicaid. If you have life-saving medications or treatment that costs you more than that $50, I can do what's called a spend down, but I need documentation for it. Like, documentation will help you in these programs more than anything else. And people are saying if it doesn't work for them, I say it does. It's federal law. These are policies established by the Department of Health and Human Services and USDA. What I'm speaking to, because there's a lot of nuance where I could be like, well, this may not work in your state. The specific things I just listed are under federal policy, not state policy. So they're universal. And if you tried that and it was denied, then you need to appeal. You have a right federally to 3 rounds of appeal. One will be to a different caseworker in the building. The second will be to a board in your state, and the final will be to a district court. So you have a right to 3 appeals on any decision.
Brother, I appreciate you very much. I know you got a lot going on. Thanks for jumping in and help us navigate through that. You're
no problem.
Good man, sir. I appreciate you.
And thank you for the fireworks on the way out the door.
Appreciate you, buddy. Talk to you later. Everybody follow Crow if you don't. So, again, it's just about getting the right information. So he works in this space. He's incredibly smart, pays attention to this kind of stuff. This is impact. So all we're trying to do here is provide what's real and what's not. It's not that complicated. It shouldn't be, at least. Good morning, Jacob. How are you today?
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing good today.
Excellent. What's on your mind?
Well, I assume this is a debate whether Trump is good or not. So, I'm just here for fun debates, I guess.
I really don't do fun debates. Do you have a particular topic that you'd like to discuss?
Well, I guess the reason why I support Trump, I guess the number one reason I would say is immigration. That was the main reason why I voted for him.
Where do you live?
New York.
So how does immigration affect you?
I see it all the time with Randall's Island. I can't play soccer at Randall's Island anymore because there are migrant shelters there now. Roosevelt.
I'm sorry. That's a pretty privileged take. Sorry, you can't play soccer there. Sorry.
My city's getting trashed constantly. They don't respect the rules. They don't respect the bike lanes. One of my friends got hit by one of these migrant workers at Uber Eats. Who
commits? Oh, really? So how do you know? I'm sorry that happened. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, poor me.
Yeah, it's poor you. Such a privileged take. Sorry you couldn't play soccer. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's actually, I deserve the right to go to the park. I don't think that they should be held for people who weren't even
the right?
Yeah, I think that if I'm paying taxes,
you deserve the right to go to a park. So then that would mean then that everybody in America deserves the right to health care, right?
No. I deserve the right.
Gotcha. Okay. Bye. That's how you smack that conversation. That's a way to end that conversation. I deserve the right to go to the park and play soccer. Okay, cool. Then everybody in America deserves healthcare, right? Didn't think so. God, they're fucking stupid. Jacob, just leave. You're just not smart enough for this conversation. Sorry. My God. Unbelievable. It's amazing what you find on the other side of the facts world. I am the Marine. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, when the other guest was up, I worked at the Social Security Administration, and we were being given down directives and new policies and everything, preparing for this change and how we were going to implement it. One thing I don't think that people understand is how
You're on mute, friend.
Are going to affect American children in a way that isn't directly spelled out in the Trump tax plan. Because please stop calling it the big, beautiful bill. Put his name on it. Make him own it. Because when all of the after effects of this start coming out after the midterms, we don't want them to be able to put it on Democrats and liberals.
Preach.
But with the change to Social Security payments not being paid to anyone without a Social Security number, this means that children receiving survivor's benefits from their deceased parent who paid into the program, if their other parent is not a U.S. citizen, they will lose their survivor benefits because there is no Social Security number above the age of 18 to be able to make the payments to. There is a case where there was a Marine married a German woman while on the embassy duty. They were in the process of getting her citizenship when he got deployed. She got a folded flag when he came back. Their 2 children will lose their benefits because their mother was not a U.S. citizen. So not only did they lose a parent that we cannot replace, we will not even be able to help them financially with the loss of income of their United States Marine father. Now, if you want to talk about other benefit cuts, because everyone wants to claim about veterans and their patriotism, do you understand that with the Medicare cuts, veterans that have retired, such as myself and my father, qualify for TRICARE for life. But once you reach the age 65, you have to be on Medicare Parts A and B. Now, this will affect veteran health care because if they are no longer eligible for Medicare, they will be dropped. Them and their families will be dropped from TRICARE for life. Veterans' choice programs depend on rural hospitals because, a large population of veterans are from rural areas. When those hospitals close because of Medicaid cuts, which many will, they're already closing, that will make it harder for veterans to receive care because if they live further than 45 miles from a VA hospital, they're given veterans choice. Most of those hospitals are in rural areas, which will be affected by the Medicaid cuts. So again, veterans losing access to healthcare. And not just the veterans, other people in those communities, when those hospitals close, will now be further away from hospitals. So even if they are covered, even if they do have their Medicare, their Medicaid, their private insurance, if there's no hospital for them to get to in case of a stroke or a heart attack, they will cease to breathe. And that is what people aren't thinking about. They're thinking about, the immigrants. It's not because, okay, I work at Social Security. Do you understand that undocumented individuals cannot not apply for SNAP? Because you can apply for SNAP at a Social Security office if you didn't know that. The SNAP cuts. Do you know, okay, school lunches. We're getting rid of school lunches. Do you understand that only 18 cents a year from your taxes go to school lunch programs? Who's not willing to spend 18 cents to feed children? Any of the MAGA that are down there chirping in the comments, go ahead and answer that. Are you not willing to spend 18 cents to feed hungry children?
They don't care. They don't care. So if we left it up, so I can see your argument. If you need attention, private, probably got demoted numerous times. You don't care. We know you don't care because you tell us every single day. So you can miss us with you care about kids. You complain that you don't think kids should have free school lunches, but you'll get your panties in a bunch about offering social programs and expanding health access and public health and educational programs for children. But God forbid, that's socialism. We can't do that. We can't let them have free school lunches. We can't. We can't let them have. We don't have to. I don't give a shit about you. You're a traitor, private. You're a traitor. I'll say it to your face. You don't care about kids. You don't give a shit. You do not care. You pro-life, fake pro-lifers, you don't give a shit. You're trying to find everything. You'll try to find every excuse in your book to justify this. Well, they're not. Well, some people. So your argument is if undocumented immigrants, if there's any case where undocumented immigrants are getting benefits, then we're going to make sure everybody suffers. You don't care. Thank you for jumping in today. I'm the Marine. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
You got it. See, leftist Linda, you're back. You don't care either. You're not brave enough to come up and have a conversation because you don't want to have the conversation either because you want to hide in your spaces. It's one of the reasons that I don't debate with you people. First of all, it's not a debate because you don't want to learn. You just want to hear yourself talk. You want to prove to us your confirmation bias. You want to prove to us how much you have been diminished. Your life has not amounted to anything. You are mediocre at best. And because of that, you want to make sure everybody is punished. Instead of looking at the people who are actually doing the harm, you support kids having food taken out of their mouth. If you had $100, you could give it to kids or the military-industrial complex. You'd give it to the military-industrial complex, and you know you would, because that's how pitiful you are. When was the last time I hosted a food drive to feed illegals? I don't host feed drives to feed illegals. I host food drives and fundraise for people because people are human beings. I don't think you'd want to flex on that, Joe. You don't know me. You have no idea what I've done for communities across this country. You have no clue. None. So I don't think I'd want to flex. It is so wild over here on the other side of the Facts family. It's crazy. Damn. You would not give a penny to support and invader? Of course you wouldn't, Joe, because you're a pathetic human being. Somebody want to take a look at Joe, you're a bot. Hi, friend. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you? I just came in and then saw leftist Linda saying parents should stop drinking and feed their kids. That is a wild take, Linda. That is a wild take. But I wanted to clear something up, too, because you had that dude up here that wouldn't let you finish any sentences. I've already forgotten his name because they're all the same at this point. What you guys are saying about undocumented immigrants and being able to get these benefits is not actually factually correct. As someone who not only utilized these benefits in 2020 when I was furloughed, because they wouldn't fire me because I was pregnant, so I was a protected person, even though they wanted to fire us. They couldn't, so I was furloughed and I went on TennCare, which is Medicaid. And one of the things I remember sticking out to me is my doctor laughing about the fact that undocumented immigrants couldn't get the benefits and that they had provisions in place so that they couldn't get the benefits. And she was like, well, we don't want those illegals on it. So what your whole fucking argument about them getting these things is just to get you to vote a stupid way because they're not getting these benefits. Quite often they're paying into them and they won't get them because they're afraid that they'll lose their health care or they'll be deported. So yeah, it's really gross that you guys have made this your whole personality and you're harming so many people.
Yeah, I mean, we're here. Many people may have just found us since we're on the backup today. And thank you. If you guys don't follow my backup account, please consider doing so. And we're 42 away from hitting our goal today, friends. Thank you all for your participation. By the way, let me do this real quick. Let me just thank some people who helped out with this process. Thank you to Jennifer, to Jessica, to Liz, to Alicia. Also, no fear for overfunding public education. Here's to that, bro. Stacy, Chris, and John, you guys have been great. I appreciate you all. I'll make sure I'll do a roundup before we end today. But all we're here is trying to disseminate the information. Like we make it a point to make sure that we're pointing out what's real and what's not. We know that Medicaid's cut. We know it. We know it. It's not like it's not this liberal, progressive, leftist, fingernail polished wearing gray hair just trying to spew information. It's in the fucking bill. It's in the bill. We know it's there. And you can miss me with your work requirements. Work requirements have always existed. There's always, now they try to change the language to make people think that people are just sitting around. By the way, the people that are sitting around taking advantage of government subsidies, guess where they live? They live in red states. They live in red states. The biggest recipients of welfare, first of all, when you get beyond corporations, because they're the biggest recipients of welfare and entitlements, corporations and the rich, then it goes to red states. And we pay your bills. You can thank us. We pay your bills. Just because you hate people so much, just because your entire life is centered around hating people because you've been told to hate them, you have no reason to. You have no reason to whatsoever. Immigrants, by and large, from the people we've spoken to this morning, work twice as hard as you do, care more about their communities than you do. In fact, myself and Victoria, we care more about your kids than you do. We care more about the women in your life, their access to their rights. We care more about your future. We care more about your kids' future. We care more about the fact that we want your kids to make sure that they can eat. Wow, what a wild fucking concept. We care more about your health. We want you to live longer. We want you to have access to capital. We don't want you ripped off by corporations. We care more about that than you do.
Someone said, don't forget being able to play soccer in the park.
Right, and exactly. Be able to play soccer in the park. I have a right to play soccer in the park. I'll have to clip that one. That's the wildest fucking take I've heard in a long time.
That shit.
Holy shit, that's fucking wild.
I mean, and I said it the other. I called into the radio show the other night because Victoria is recovering right now from surgery, so I couldn't make it up to my favorite radio station here in Tennessee. And I said it. I was like, you all. Like, I get it. Republicans, the big scary immigrant is stealing your health care and it is just a lie. It is a lie that you're being told so that you'll vote a specific way and so you'll disenfranchise an entire population of people. Because if you'll dehumanize one group of people, it's not going to be a hop, skip, and a jump before you'll dehumanize the rest and they're going into concentration camps. And shocking take here, but that's already fucking happening because you guys have been dehumanizing these groups of people for decades now. And now we're not surprised that you're supporting this. We're not surprised that you're on the wrong side of history. The only thing that is surprising is that we were right.
Absolutely.
I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong so bad. I can't explain to you, Steve. I think we've talked about it offline. How bad I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong in 2016. I wanted to be wrong in 2010. Shit, I wanted to be wrong when I was a kid sitting in the lunchroom watching children dehumanize other children. But you know what? Here we fucking are. We're here, and I'm so upset that I was right.
It's a really good point, and I think from these conversations, like, one of the reasons we don't do debate much anymore is because what's the point? People on the right don't want to learn anymore. They just want to yell and scream, and they want to complain that they couldn't play soccer. And Tootle calls off the best point. Immigrants to our country play the best soccer. Opportunity missed, my guy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as a dual citizen, which Steve, you weren't on app. I was told that I shouldn't be a dual citizen. That shouldn't be allowed. So that's cool. I'm already an alien in both countries because when you are raised in two different cultures, you do have a global look. I had a point there and I lost it. I was going to try and Michael Scott my way back, but I couldn't do it.
It's okay. But what I find is fascinating, and I think I see Obi. What I really, really find fascinating is that they'll do everything in their power to try to justify even one person having their access to health care legislated away. It's mind-boggling to me, under the guise of waste, fraud, and abuse. And for those of you who've not seen us before, or you're finding us for the first time over on the backup, here's a little nugget for you. Medicaid fraud. This has been studied by the GAO going back a decade. They run at around a 5% fraud rate, okay? And the bulk of that fraud comes from internal, clerical, administrative stuff, not the intentional side, not people committing fraud. We know that fraud exists. So they used waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid to cut Medicaid funding. Meanwhile, Department of Defense and DHS, again, under the GAO, the ones that monitor this, they run at fraud rates of 15%. And those two agencies, DHS in particular, the DHS budget now is more than the Marine Corps portion of the defense budget, by the way. But they got a raise. So it's never been about waste, fraud, and abuse. It's never been. It's about punishing the low. It's about punishing the people in our society who need the most. I believe government can work. I've seen it. Government can work. Democracy can work, but it takes people that are honest, that have integrity, that have compassion, that have empathy for people. And the people on the right, conservatives and conservatives by and large, don't give a fuck about people. They care about themselves. They care about playing soccer. Hi, Obi.
Hey, yeah, I would like to play soccer too.
I mean, I used to play, and I love a good chance to kick the ball around and show that I'm athletic too.
Yeah. So you had a child on earlier that claimed to be 30, though that was
we don't
not a fact that we could verify.
Correct.
The fact that that child said twice that when Joe Biden cut the pipeline that all these jobs were lost. First of all, I don't know if anybody caught that. I'd love someone to show me where Joe Biden did that. And two, explain to me how the actual pipeline is still in business, but one that was under construction stopped construction.
Correct. So, yeah. I just ignored that.
Yeah, it's funny when you're dealing with children who think they know how to read, and I need this to sound however it sounds in anybody's ears. I'm past giving a fuck anymore. Just because you can read words written in English does not mean you have the skills or the ability to comprehend what those words mean. Legislation is written by lawyers. So unless you have
and lobbyists,
years, yeah, but a lot of lawyers check it, right? Yep. So unless you have the skills necessary to be able to interpret how they're using the English language, you really don't know what it's saying. Just because there's plain text doesn't mean the way it reads out loud is what it means. And this is the problem with the right. They ingest all of their opinion-based facts from blogs, podcasts, right? Fox News, right? But when it comes to going to the source documentation and being able to actually understand the words that are on a page, they can't do it. And it's because they're so lazy that they have relied on other people to tell them what to think, say, and do. And we know this is a fact because they keep repeating the same things that the person's telling them how to think, say, and do, direct them to. Right to understand how the cuts to these social programs are going to damage Americans. We're never going to get them to understand that immigrant-led households contribute billions in federal, state, and local taxes on an annual basis. You're never going to get them to understand that. And it's not that it's a waste of time, but it's a waste of effort, right? Feel free to take the time. No one gives a shit about taking the time, but it's the effort that's involved because it's Herculean in task. Right? Attempting to get some child to understand. The fact is we have data on work requirements. And what those data show is that the work requirements don't work. They have no net fraud rate stays the same with or without it because, as you so correctly pointed out, the fraud isn't the greatest amount of fraud is in human error.
Correct.
And that's what's super important. That's the nuance that maybe we don't understand, because you would have to understand history and have read back then, right?
Correct.
I just find it.
Thank you, Mark Tisha. I appreciate you very much. Thank you, friend.
Yeah, and everybody keeps sending $2. With letters. Now, I'm old enough to remember when I had a pen pal in the 1970s that lived in Pennsylvania, and we would send these things. They were called letters. You would use this language in a written form via curse words. But these letters had the same authority, weight, and gravitas of the letters that Trump is sending to these zero treaties. First of all,
it's ridiculous.
If this were, say, 1800 some odd, right? A letter, because that would have been an acceptable form of communication, because people used to write letters. But that's
it's right. Just like it's just literally a fucking letter. We're gonna do this shit.
Somebody just put in the chat, do you remember chain letters? That is fucking awesome. Yes.
That is awesome.
This is
I know what pen pals are. Thank you. And also, just because I am young does not mean I am uneducated. Thank you very much.
That's the real question.
I think I did at one point, because we moved around so much. I had to write letters to my friends and have their phone numbers and stuff.
That's hot.
I was also responsible for answering professional calls for my dad and his company. I'm not bragging, but I was a cool 5-year-old.
When we use terms in regards to Alligator, Alcatraz, and we refer to it as a concentration camp, somebody said that is offensive to Jewish people. Obi, do you find that
me for this one particular time? As Fax's only Jewish friend, and I do have an official T-shirt that says, "Hi, dude, that would be a fucking awesome show."
I'm with the Jewish guy.
I'm with the Jewish guy, right?
I know a Jewish person.
Well, I have to say that I felt immediately was, what the fuck? And then, because I'm a student of history, my heart said to me, we weren't in, so it's super important to remember that, and I will use the terms that were used because the Germans were, so you had persons with diminishing mental capacities, which could have meant any myriad of things, right? You had the queer community at all, right, as it was understood back then. You had community, right? And if you don't know who they are, look up the G slur and then you'll figure that out. Had criminals, right? Like, people forgot, pickpockets and thieves were thrown in that too, right?
LGBTQIA,
yeah, tens of millions of us that were in these camps together were were intentionally unalived because we have this blood quantum theory, right? And so, on the surface, be upset upon the comparison. Be right back. Okay, Victoria. But I think if one is being, and I'm going to use one of your favorite, if one could be objective, while thinking this through as an exercise, photograph comparisons between the arrangement of the bunks, the structure of the possibility of endless unaliving because it doesn't look like there's any medical facilities, there's nothing there. Let's be quite honest, there's prehistoric things that will need a snack, right? And aware of another phrase or term that is appropriate. Correct. Because all of those two things have medical facilities, mental health facilities, but
internment,
this looks like, well, an internment camp is just another way of saying concentration camp.
Agreed.
Persons who lived in the United States during World War II.
Correct.
Right? Because, everybody looks the same when you're a racist and a bigot. Right?
Obviously, it's, first of all, it's just how horrible it is, and selling merch, alligator Alcatraz merch, that's one thing for years, is about why are we not providing housing for veterans? Or why are we not making sure that, or why are we not making sure that, rural communities have what they need when it comes to disaster relief? For 2 weeks, we have what the number was approaching $1 billion now for this facility in Florida. Right, and the claim is that it's not coming. It's definitely not. Florida's saying we're not paying for it. So again, we know where the money's coming from. We see, obviously, the Kristi Noem admitting herself that they're going to be cuts to the VA staffing, cuts to Medicaid, Medicare. So where do you go now, MAGA? When we tell you that it is all, and you're clapping and cheering for internment camps, concentration camps, filled with people in many cases that don't belong, where is your concern? Where is your argument? Say, why are we using that money to get veterans off the street, fix the houseless population? Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we? This is why we tell you that your racism and your bigotry shows. Single day, I will, because I have to. But this is another example. This is why we use historical parallels for the same methodology. Memory. Schmittler was able to convince the people in Germany prior to the official rise of the Reich that he was there for their economic recovery. Out in the West, kept
our eyes off of constant violations of the Versailles Treaty, which meant that there was only so much investing in the military. So all those kinds of things allowed for the economy in Germany to boom, including contributions from Jews. Hitler was able to convince all of his voters and his supporters, see what I did? Look what I did for you. I made Germany great again. No matter what he did at that point, they were still all in. I'm not saying every German, of course, obviously. But here we are. This is why we make these, and then the right says, well, that's why you guys lost the election. If that's the reason we lost the election, then shame on America.
Right. Right.
Sadly.
Right.
It's a coincidence. It's only coincidental because we've seen it happen before. We've seen it happen before. Yellow Red, I'm sorry. Maybe you can go play.
Trolls on your backup. Like, it's almost as if they're starting to outnumber your actual audience today.
It's pretty wild. But we don't spend as much time over here, so therefore we don't have we're not blocking or muting like we do in the past or on the other side. Yeah. Listen, it's not, again, it's got nothing to do with us wanting to continue to have these conversations. It's because you show us who you are every single day. You're celebrating this kind of stuff. You're trying to justify. You're trying to do every piece of mental gymnastics possible to figure out a way to justify cutting public health benefits and food programs for children. You don't like to talk about. I wouldn't either. If I supported that, I wouldn't want to talk about it either. If I was like, yeah, fuck SNAP, who gives a shit? Well, can we talk about the details? No, it's all about, I don't want brown people. It's so easy to feel that way. It hurts, but it's so easy. It's so easy to just be ignorant to the facts and the truth. It's so easy to try to justify your argument. But at some point, don't you get tired? At some point, don't you constantly get tired? You guys, 2 days ago, you were cheering for the Epstein client list to be released. And now it's not. And what are you going to do? Are you going to believe what Alex Jones told you to believe? Probably. That this was all part of the plan all along so that we can leverage and blackmail the deep state? Or are you going to say, well, Trump worked with people in the Democratic Party because, listen, if I let this go out, you guys are going to be in deep shit. So the next time a big vote comes up, you're going to have to vote with me. They're going to say that. So where is your anger? Where is it? Stop being so obviously hypocritical. Just be objective. That's all we ask for. Follow some logical consistency. That's it. That's it. It's not that hard. It doesn't mean you have to give up on your beliefs, although I wish you would. Just be a bit objective. If you were excited 2 days ago that the Epstein client list was going to come out, and now that it's not, what's your reaction? Something's wrong with me, Yellow Red? No, friend. I prioritize human rights, my guy. Something's wrong with you. Anyway.
These trolls are hilarious. I still don't understand, though, this fixation with that list. Like, what did people think was actually going to happen? I mean, if you're on the flight logs, did you really think the person on the flight logs was going to release information? You want to talk about deep state? That is the actual deep state. And what is it about your fingernails that is triggering this guy?
I don't know. I don't know.
Did he like Motley Crue in the 80s? I mean,
Sam, I'm asking is what you sent me, that picture that you sent about those camps, are those all, so how do we know what the distance is from one end to the other? If anybody can find that for me. So a lot of attention has been paid to Camp Mystic. I want to make sure we're giving this proper coverage. A lot of attention has been paid to Camp Mystic. But there are numerous other camps along that stretch of the Guadalupe River that have sustained significant damage, including Camp Mystic, Heart of the Hills, Camp Waldemar, Camp La Junta, Camp Stewart for Boys, Camp Honey Creek for Girls, Camp Rio Vista and Camp Sierra Vista, Jellystone Park on the Guadalupe River, Texas Lions Camp, which I think is the best name ever, His Hill Ranch Camp, and then the Herman Sons Life Camp located on Hilltop. That goes from just outside of Hunt to Comfort, which is in the San Angeles region. I don't know how far that is, but that is so make sure that it's obviously Camp Mystic is the one that got the most press, but those are other camps along that stretch of river that got the most damage or sustained significant damage. Okay, a little bit more from Brooke Rollins. Thanks, Tiff, for this. Brooke Rollins, in case you don't know, is Agriculture Secretary. She's one of the people that have been part of making sure that farmers are getting gutted, and she celebrates it too. So this is what she had to say today on the steps of the White House. Hold on.
But I can't underscore enough. There will be no amnesty. The mass deportations continue, but in a strategic way, and we move the workforce towards automation and 100% American participation, which again, with 34 million people, able-bodied adults on Medicaid, we should be able to do that fairly quickly. Thank you.
Wow. Well, there it is, friends. So when the president's not talking about indentured servitude so that farmers can own and be responsible for migrant workers, Brooke Rollins on farm labor, this is a quote, "There will be no amnesty. The mass deportations continue, but in a strategic way, and we move the workforce towards automation and 100% American participation, which with 34 million able-bodied on Medicaid, we should be able to do so fairly quickly." But, cruelty is not the point, right? Of course.
Are they going to transport all of these supposed able-bodied persons to where the farms actually are? And who's going to pay for that?
Well, according to Mr. Trump, it would be the farmers. They're the ones that are going to be responsible for them. Owners. The owners or the people that will be responsible. So in the last 48 hours or 72 hours, however long, so Alligator Alcatraz, which is a concentration camp. And then we've heard the president speak of, in terms of farmers will have ownership and or responsibility over the people that work there. But will they be paid a fair wage? Will they? Will they have protections? Will they have labor protections? Will they have access to health care? Where will they sleep? This is why we talk about this shit. Who stands to benefit? What do we always tell you, friends? Follow what? Follow fucking money. It's so disgusting. It is so absolutely revolting. Revolting. It is so disgusting. And there are so many of you that just don't give a fuck. You don't care because you couldn't play soccer. You don't fucking care because 5% of cases of fraud and some people might have taken advantage of the system. Meanwhile, corporations, millionaires and billionaires cheat the system every fucking day. Every day. And they're doing it legally because the people that they get elected through their lobbies are writing legislation to protect them, are writing legislation to make their fraud, deception, and corruption legal. And you're complaining about a single mom who's got to work 2 jobs just to feed her kids? And she's got to look at her 3 children and she's got to say, am I going to pay my rent or am I going to feed them SpaghettiOs?
Yeah.
And you are laughing and you are mocking those individuals and you are looking for excuses to justify it. You got families that travel thousands of miles to try to make it to our country. And yes, they commit a civil infraction, a misdemeanor, crossing the border. All they want is a better life. They contribute to our society. They pay taxes. They don't get benefits. They commit crime at an exponentially lower rate than white cis hetero men. They grow their communities. They're enriching our culture, and they're the enemy. You're complaining about them. You white cis hetero, middle school, maxed out, accomplished, weak ass men. You're complaining or blaming brown skinned people for assaulting your children while you're assaulting your children. You're blaming them for crimes against women while you're committing crimes against women. You're blaming them for unaliving and high rates of homicide while you're unaliving people and committing homicide. It is
By the way,
unbelievable.
I was curious, so went to NYC Parks, actually nycgovparks.org, and every single soccer field on Randall's Island is open. None of them are closed.
Well, he just didn't have game. That's why he didn't want to go there. He didn't want to get showed
Central
up.
Field, Eastfield, Hellgate, Sunken, and Ward's Meadow Fields all show is open. And how I know to check is that if I look at the Bronx, I could go to Watson Gleason Playground, which has a soccer field, and it says this facility is currently closed, and there are details. But when I go to Manhattan and look up Randall's Island, none of those are closed. So, privileged dude didn't get to play soccer. Well, maybe you weren't good enough. And then also, on top of that, please note, if your team or league wants to play, you will need an athletic field permit.
So what you're saying is that he might have illegally entered a camp without permission.
I do believe that he is a soccer pitch invader and should probably be deported from all pitches moving forward.
Totally agree. Absolutely.
He crossed the pitch illegally.
But I would support his rights to due process to plead his case to court, wouldn't you, Hobie?
No, I believe that he doesn't deserve due process because he didn't do it in the right way.
That's right. He did it illegally. He didn't do it in the right way, so therefore he doesn't get due process. So he should just be rounded up and sent to a concentration camp.
I believe so.
Yep.
I believe so. Yes.
He should probably be sent to like an elementary school summer camp where at least he might be able to compete with soccer. But we'll see. By the way, I mentioned this.
Paste.
Yeah, so again, just wanted to mention those camps that I mentioned earlier. It looks like it's about a 25 to 30 mile, let's see, maybe 45 to 50 mile stretch of that river. And that apparently the Guadalupe River, that particular, if you look at the map, you can see, I've been to Texas Hill Country and it's some of the most beautiful places on earth and it's great motorcycle riding. But you can also see, because the valleys are kind of tight, when those rivers all converge on one particular spot, and the Guadalupe River seems to be one of those spots that, annually receives things like flooding, and not to this degree, obviously, but it looks like a 50 mile or so stretch, roughly speaking, where a lot of camps are involved. So, all right. I think that's the place to call it today. Final thoughts, Obi?
Final thoughts are, first of all, this platform that Steve run doesn't have fun debates or any debates. I don't know what a fun debate is. That was brought up earlier. Because a debate would require preparation and a monitor. And then people would have to respond to questions. The answers would be timed, and then your mics would be muted. What I find interesting is that if I were a goalpost for MAGA, I would be exhausted from the constant uprooting and movement of me as a goalpost. I find it staggering that they have so much energy to move the goalposts, but they never have energy to confront the truth. Those are my final thoughts.
So we lost the appeal. It was misinformation, guys, is what I was reported for, but whatever. So we'll be back tomorrow morning right here. So if you don't follow us on the backup, please do so and come back here tomorrow morning. I'll do a promo video tomorrow morning on the main, and I'll tag the backups for people to join here. But we'll be back here tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time. Who's live right now, everybody? Anybody
Probably
know
Olive.
who is? I'm sure Olive's probably live. Olive or Danny. If Danny's live, let's raid Danny because she's been doing a lot of the work that we try to do every single day too. Let's see. To see Johnny, Chris, yeah, Danny. Let's go. Let's raid Danny. You guys know Danny, DANI. Please go over there. Tell her we said hello. I love you all. Thank you, friends. Thank you, mods. You guys are the best. You guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. I appreciate you all very, very much. Tomorrow morning,